Chapter 155. Under the protection of 4 shop assistants, the shop owner stood at the innermost part of the counter. It was as if he had answered Tan Xiu's question many times, and his tone was full of decisiveness. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment before he nodded and said, "I'll take it. Give me your bank account number. I'll transfer the money to your account in a few minutes." The shop owner looked at Tan Xiu with disdain in his eyes and said, "Little brother, don't talk big. The price I quoted is 100 million, not 1,000 yuan. Whether I can afford it or not is my business," said Tan Xiu. "You only need to tell me your bank account number. If the money comes in a few minutes, it means that our transaction is successful. The money is yours and this Tianshan Snow Lotus is mine. If there's no money, it means that I have no money to pay and you have nothing to lose." The shop owner thought for a moment and felt that Tan Xiu's words were reasonable. He immediately told one of the shop assistants to tell Tan Xiu his bank account number. Tan Xiu squeezed out of the crowd and dialed Gu Xiaoshue's cell number. "Are you looking for me, Grand Master?" Gu Xiaoshue's surprised voice came out of the phone. "Yes, I need 100 million yuan now." "Do you have the money?" Tan Xiu said. "I do. Is 100 million enough?" "I'll transfer 1 billion to you." Gu Xiaoshue said with a smile. 1 billion? Tan Xiu couldn't help but roll his eyes. He found that he was really poor. His own grand disciple could casually take out 1 billion yuan, but he was worried about 100 million yuan. However, he had no other choice but to look for Gu Xiaoshue. After all, the Tianshan Snow Lotus was very important. If he could get it, not only would it make Gu Yin's cultivation soar, but it would also greatly benefit the unconscious Gu Yan. No need. I only need 100 million yuan. I'll give you a bank account number. You must transfer the money to this account in a few minutes, said Tan Xiu. All right. Gu Xiaoshue complied. A few minutes later, the shop owner looked at Long Jinglin with a helpless expression and said, "Little brother, your friend hasn't come back yet. That means he can't come up with 100 million. Please don't make things difficult for me. I still need to sell this Tianshan Snow Lotus. Look, everyone's waiting." He knew Long Jinglin and also knew Long Jinglin's identity. Otherwise, he would have already sent people to drive Long Jinglin away. Boss, the money is here. I counted it. It's exactly 100 million. A shop assistant had been staring at the screen of his mobile phone. After receiving the notification of the transfer of funds, he immediately shouted with excitement. The shop owner stared blankly for a moment before an incredulous look appeared on his face. He exclaimed, that little brother really transferred 100 million to me in just a few minutes? Check again to see if you got the numbers wrong. The shop assistant looked at it again. After confirming, he said, "Boss, it's really right. It's 100 million yuan. Look." At this moment, Tan Xiu squeezed through the crowd again, looked at the shop owner, and asked, "Has the money arrived?" The shop owner nodded with a blank expression and said, "Yes. Now, this Tianshan Snow Lotus should belong to me, right?" Tan Xiu said. "If you don't have any objection, then I'll take it." The shop owner's lips squirmed as he nodded and said, "It's yours." Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and gave a grateful look to the pleasantly surprised Long Jinglin. He took the jade box and closed the lid. Then, he squeezed through the crowd with Long Jinglin and left the medicinal herbs market at the fastest speed. On the taxi back to Xingqing No. 1 High School, Long Jinglin looked at Tan Xiu with a beaming smile and said, "Eldest brother, I've done a meritorious deed this time, right? I know you're looking for precious medicinal herbs everywhere, so I've been going to the medicinal herbs market every 3 to 5 days. I didn't expect that I would hit the jackpot today. How about it? How will you reward me?" "I'll reward you with a kiss. Do you want it?" Tan Xiu said with a smile. "Go to hell." Long Jinglin gave a middle finger to Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu lowered his head and looked at the jade box in his hand. After being silent for a long while, he slowly said, "As your reward, I'll give you a big surprise later." "There's really a surprise?" Long Zhenglin was surprised. "What is it?" "It's a secret for the time being," Tan Xiu said. "Let's change the topic. I'm going back to school, so why are you still following me?" Long Zhenglin shrugged his shoulders and said with a smile, "I'm fine. I've been wandering around everywhere recently, so I feel like I have nothing to do." "Do you want to keep doing this?" Tan Xiu asked. "You're not young anymore, so I think you should do something. Even if it's not a big goal, at the very least, you need to have the ability to support yourself. You don't need to worry about the long group in the future since your big brother is supporting it. But with such good conditions, don't tell me you don't want to pursue your dream?" Long Zhenglin spread out his hands and said, "My dream is to sleep until I wake up naturally and count money until my hands cramp. Now that I've achieved my first dream, only the second one is left." Tan Xiu said indifferently, "Since you haven't completed your second dream, then go and fight for it. Besides, I think you should leave Star City and go to the outside world to fight for yourself. As the saying goes, a tiger father will not beget a dog son. Your father is very powerful to be able to fight for such a big family business. I don't think his son is a waste. Go to the outside world to fight." Long Zhenglin looked at Tan Xiu with an astonished expression and said, "If I want to make money, why would I go to the outside world to fight for myself? In Star City, I have the support of the Long family. Whether it's connections or business channels, I can easily get them. It's much easier to make money there than outside." Tan Xiu said, "Forever sheltering under the wings of the eagle, the little eagle will never be able to soar in the sky. Let me give you an example. If one day, your big brother and your dad are gone, then who will you rely on later? Isn't there a saying that relying on heaven, relying on earth, and relying on one's parents is not a real man? A real man who walks on the afterlife, don't tell me he doesn't want to become a real man, a real man?" This, Long Zhenglin was shaken by Tan Xiu's words. He had never thought about this issue before, nor had anyone told him about it. At this moment, Tan Xiu's words were like a blow to his head, making him suddenly wake up. Long Zhenglin was silent for a long time. When the taxi was about to arrive at Xingqing No. 1 High School, he slowly asked, "Eldest brother, what do you think I should do?" Tan Xiu said indifferently, "You need to ask your heart what you want to do. You're not short of money now, so you can pursue what you like, and also make money. Star City is, after all, a small place for me. In the future, I'm bound to go out of Star City and develop on a bigger stage. Therefore, I don't want my friend to be mediocre in the future." Long Zhenglin said with a deep tone, "Eldest brother, I understand your mind. Don't worry. I'll tell you as soon as I think about it." After saying that, he asked the taxi driver to pull over and directly left alone. Tan Xiu looked at Long Zhenglin's shoulder as he secretly sighed inside. He originally didn't intend to stimulate Long Zhenglin, but he really couldn't look at his idle appearance all day long. Because, what was the difference between Long Zhenglin and those rich and powerful second-generation hedonistic young masters? Soon, Tan Xiu climbed over the wall and slipped back to school. To his satisfaction, Han Qinggu didn't return to the class. The students in the class thought that Tan Xiu was called away by Han Qinggu and didn't return. One day, he had finally endured it. When Han Qinggu announced that the second and third day would be a holiday, the whole class suddenly boiled up. "Eldest brother, can we stay at your house for these 2 days?" Yuan Chuling asked with a smile. Tan Xiu said with a confused expression, "Stay at my house? You have your own home, so why are you going to my house?" Cheng Yannan turned around with a beaming smile and said, "We're going to use the last 2 days to make a full effort to study the contents of the textbook that we don't understand. Teacher Tang, you can't abandon us at the last critical moment, can you?" "What?" Tan Xiu was dumbfounded. Originally, he wanted to use these 2 days to have a good rest and conveniently go to the restaurant to accompany his mother. But, he suddenly had a big headache when he heard Yuan Chuling and Qing Yannan's words. It was as if he was stuck with dogskin plaster. After hesitating for a moment, Tan Xiu said, "How about this? You don't need to stay at my house. Later on, come to my house every morning and I'll continue to give you tutoring. You're free to do whatever you want in the afternoon, and I'll have a good rest at night." "Deal." Yuan Chuling happily said with a smile. A crafty glint appeared in Qing Yannan's eyes as she said, "Tan Xiu, in order to express our gratitude for your tutoring, Yuan Chuling, Xia Wanfen, and Li Shaoqian have discussed it. Tonight, we'll invite you to dinner and karaoke. You can't refuse." "Dinner? Karaoke?" Tan Xiu didn't care about eating, but he was somewhat curious about karaoke. He had been to a KTV before, and the only time he went there was to help Ouyang Lulu solve a problem. He was very curious about his singing skills. "All right. Just consider it as relaxing before the college entrance test." The smile on Qing Yannan's face turned thicker as she said with a beaming smile, "Thank you, Teacher Tang, for coming. Let's pack up and set off." "All right." Tan Xiu nodded. For dinner, the five of them ate in a restaurant that was not too shabby. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, the five of them took a bus to a very high-class KTV. In the era of debauchery, the KTV business was very hot, and the beginning of the nightlife made countless office workers crazy. They had to work during the day and vent at night. Therefore, going to a KTV to sing was a very good choice. Under the guidance of the waiter, the five of them came to a luxurious box. As the microphone was turned on, Tan Xiu was pushed to the singing platform by the four of them. "I really don't know how to sing. I don't usually listen to songs, so I don't know what to sing. I think it's better for you to choose songs. I'll drink and listen to you sing," Tan Xiu said with a forced smile. The shy Xia Wanfen looked at Tan Xiu with an inconceivable expression and said, "You really don't know how to sing? And you rarely listen to songs?" "It's true," Tan Xiu said. Chapter 156. The corner of Xia Wanfen's mouth slightly curled up as she said, "Since you can't sing pop songs, then sing the national anthem." "Don't tell me that you can't even sing the national anthem." Black lines appeared on Tan Xiu's face. Yuan Chuling said with a smile, "Eldest brother, isn't your learning ability very strong? Since you haven't heard pop songs, then it doesn't matter. We'll sing some songs and you'll listen attentively. With your intelligence, maybe you'll be able to sing it after listening a few times." Tan Xiu forced a smile and said, "You think too highly of me, don't you? If I'm really that good, I'll become a big star. Just give it a try." Qing Yannan encouraged. It was hard to refuse such great hospitality. Tan Xiu had no choice but to nod and agree. Following that, Yuan Chuling and Qing Yannan each picked a song, and they sang very well. Xia Wanfen and Li Shaoqian also threw away their shyness, picked songs, sang songs, and clinked bottles and drank beer with everyone. "How is it? Which song did you listen to?" After Li Shaoqian finished singing, Qing Yannan looked at Tan Xiu and asked with a beaming smile. Tan Xiu forced a smile and said, "I didn't listen to it." Qing Yannan said, "Anyway, we invited you to sing. If you don't sing a song, you won't give us face. So, we don't have any opinion on what you want to sing." Tan Xiu said, "You really can sing anything?" Qing Yannan nodded and said, "Anything." Tan Xiu stood up, grabbed the microphone on the table and said, "Since you said I can sing anything, then I'll sing a song I've heard before. This song has a strange tone, I hope you like it. By the way, I can sing better if I have a zither." "Zither?" Yuan Chuling, Qing Yannan, and the other two looked at each other in dismay with strange expressions in their eyes. "Eldest brother, what kind of joke is this? Where is this place?" "KTV. You came to KTV to sing, and you even want to use a zither? Isn't this nonsense? Besides, where are we going to find a zither for you?" Yuan Chuling yelled angrily. Tan Xiu forced a smile and said, since I don't have a zither, then I'll just hum a few words. This song. Wait. Xia Wanfen suddenly interrupted Tan Xiu and said, if I remember correctly, the proprietress of this KTV has a zither. When I came here with my family to sing, I saw the proprietress sitting in the hall outside and playing the zither. The melody was very beautiful. Yuan Chuling was surprised. You know the lady boss here? Xia Wanfen smiled and said, I don't know him, but my aunt does, and their relationship is quite good. Why don't I try to find her? Qing Yannan said, I'll go with you. All right. Tan Xiu watched as the two girls left. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't expect the two girls to be so serious. It was just a few lines. Was there a need to go out and borrow a zither? In the general manager's office of Westland KTV. Qin Xiaofen quietly looked at the zither score in her hand. Although she managed this KTV, her hobby was musical instruments. She liked to collect all kinds of musical instruments, and she liked to use a variety of musical instruments to play the music in her heart. Knock, knock, the office door was knocked, interrupting Qin Xiaofen's thoughts. Qin Xiaofen slightly frowned and said with dissatisfaction, come in. A waiter opened the door, looked at Qin Xiaofen and said, Proprietress, there are two guests looking for you. They said they know you. Where are they? Qin Xiaofen asked. Outside the door. The waiter said. Then let them come in. Qin Xiaofen said. A moment later, Xia Wanfen and Qing Yannan came into the office. When they saw Qin Xiaofen, Xia Wanfen walked a few steps forward and stood in front of her, saying, Hello, Aunt Qin. I'm Xia Wanfen, Xia Shishi's niece. I followed my aunt and my parents to see you before. A smile appeared on Qin Xiaofen's face as she nodded and said, I remember you. But that was a few years ago. I also told your aunt to bring you here to play when she has free time. Why? Is there something you need from me? Xia Wanfen said, It's like this. We have a classmate who doesn't know how to sing, so he wants to sing a very special song. But he said that he needs a zither. I remembered that you should have one here, so I came to look for you. Zither? Singing? Qin Xiaofen was at a loss whether she had to laugh or cry as she said, Isn't your classmate too interesting? Coming to a KTV to play a zither. An awkward expression appeared on Xia Wanfen's face. She also felt that Tan Xiu's proposal was somewhat absurd, so she blushed and said, Aunt Qin, my classmate, he's really weird. Qin Xiaofen said, Forget it. Since it's the guest's request, I'll naturally try my best to satisfy it. But I have a request. If you can agree to it, I'll lend you my favorite zither. Please say it. Xia Wanfen quickly nodded. Qin Xiaofen said with a smile, I want to see your classmate and listen to his zither. This, Xia Wanfen and Qing Yannan looked at each other with hesitant expressions. They didn't know Tan Xiu's thoughts. If they were to hastily agree, what would they do if Tan Xiu became unhappy? However, Qing Yannan steeled her heart and said, Aunt Qin, we promise you. Hearing Tan Xiu sing while playing the zither in a KTV, Qin Xiaofen's eyes suddenly lit up. Qin Xiaofen's eyes suddenly lit up as she said, How about this? I'll arrange the biggest private room for you and we'll go there to listen to the song. How about it? It just so happens that I have a few friends who will come later. I must tell you that they are the leaders of the Provincial Music Academy. If your singing talent is good, maybe after the college entrance test, you will be specially recruited by them to enter the music academy. Xia Wanfen's eyes lit up, while Qing Yannan also showed a tempted expression. They whispered a few words and finally agreed to Qin Xiaofen's proposal. A few minutes later, Tan Xiu, Yuan Chuling, and Li Shaoqian were led to the VIP private room. Seeing that Xia Wanfen and Qing Yannan were already waiting inside, Yuan Chuling suddenly curiously asked, What's going on? Weren't we just fine in the previous private room? Why did you change the place? Qing Yannan glanced at Tan Xiu as she said with a smile, our luck is really good. Xia Wanfen and I want to enter the Provincial Music Academy. As a result, we happened to bump into several leaders of the Music Academy when we borrowed the zither. They are the friends of the KTV's proprietress. The proprietress is really a good person. In order to help us, she asked us to move here to sing and show our singing voice to those leaders. Really? The delicate and pretty Li Shaoqian immediately exclaimed with excitement, I also like singing, and I also want to enter the music academy. Yan Nan, you don't know that I've always dreamed of becoming a singer since childhood. That's great. That's really great. If the leaders of the music academy take a fancy to us, we'll definitely be able to make an exception and be admitted to their school. Tang Xiu's brows furrowed for a moment before they stretched out again. Although he didn't like to have leisure and entertainment with unfamiliar people, he didn't want to spoil everyone's mood after seeing the excited appearance of Li Shaoqian and the others. Perhaps, today was an opportunity for them to enter the music academy of their dreams. His line of sight finally stopped at a tea table. On the tea table, there was an antique zither. The zither was engraved with a vivid and lifelike pattern of dragons and phoenixes. At the entrance of the Westland KTV, Qin Xiaofen smiled as she looked at a black Mercedes-Benz that slowly stopped. She then looked at the three mature and beautiful women coming out from the inside. Boss Chen, sorry for disturbing you. One of the mature and beautiful women smiled and threw herself at Qin Xiaofen, giving her a big hug. Qin Xiaofen said with a smile, I'm very happy that you can come to my place. How can it be called disturbing? Come to think of it, we sisters haven't seen each other for more than half a year, right? The three of you have no conscience. You're enjoying your life in the provincial capital and left me alone in Star City. Huang Jia was the mature and beautiful woman who had just thrown herself at Qin Xiaofen. She smilingly hugged Qin Xiaofen's shoulder and said, if your husband is willing to let you go, we can arrange everything for you in the provincial capital. Including the matter of you being hired by our music academy, we'll properly handle everything for you. Qin Xiaofen helplessly said, all right, don't provoke me. My husband. Alas. Forget it, let's not talk about him. I've arranged a program for you tonight. It's a very unexpected program, I hope you like it. Huang Jia curiously asked, what program? Qin Xiaofen said with a faint smile, you're all music experts. I want to ask you, have you ever seen a guest come to a KTV to sing and borrow a zither to sing? Besides, he should be a high school student. Pfft, Huang Jia and the other two couldn't help but burst into laughter. Playing a zither and singing in a KTV? Wasn't this the biggest joke in the world? Huang Jia smilingly said, Xiaofen, this weirdo is the special program you've arranged for us. Let's not make a fuss, alright? It's not easy for us four sisters to get together, so I think it's better for us to get together alone. Qin Xiaofen smilingly said, Jia baby, don't you think this kind of play is very novel? I can't help but laugh just thinking about the scene of playing a zither and singing in a KTV. That's right, I seem to have done it before. It was when I just bought the zither and tried to play it. Ha ha ha, the three mature beauties burst into laughter upon hearing it. Huang Jia hesitated for a moment before she smilingly said, since this special program is specially arranged for us by Xiaofen, then let's broaden our horizons. Besides, there aren't many students who play zither nowadays. I wonder how her level is. If she's good, I think you can give her some pointers, Xiaofen. Qin Xiaofen smilingly said, I heard that the student who wants to play the zither and sing is a male student. What? The three mature beauties were immediately shocked. A male student? Playing the zither in a KTV? And playing the zither and singing? Don't all male students like to play the guitar and act cool? Huang Jia smilingly said, Xiaofen, tell us the specifics of the matter. That brat really arouses my curiosity. Chapter 157. At the Westland KTV luxury box. Tan Xiu sat cross-legged in front of the zither, his hands gently stroking the top-grade Wangwali wood. The entire body of the zither was bright, beautifully carved, meticulously crafted, and the 7 strings were properly matched. The zither was the most exalted musical instrument in the Chinese culture. There was a saying that, a scholar will not remove the zither without a reason, and, left zither and right calligraphy. It was ranked first among the 4 traditional medical instruments in the country, and was regarded as the most elegant representative by the literati. Once, Tan Xiu also had a zither, which was the best immortal tool in the immortal world. The wood used for it was the phoenix wood, and its strings were decomposed from the tendons and veins of a 5-clawed golden dragon. It had been nourished by the blood essence of a supreme immortal for nearly 10,000 years, and had been tempered in the 9th frozen pond and the earth fire source for hundreds of years. If an ordinary immortal could get his hands on this zither, he or she would be able to kill immortals by playing the zither. Tan Xiu, do you really know how to play the zither? Cheng Yannan came to the front of the zither and asked with a curious expression on her beautiful face. Tan Xiu put away his memories and said in a soft voice, "Yeah, I learned a bit before." A trace of contempt was revealed in Cheng Yannan's eyes as she said with a smile, "It's all right. We won't laugh at you even if you don't sing well." Yuan Chuling also joined in the commotion, "Eldest brother, we won't laugh at you. After all, being able to play the zither can be considered as multi-talented. It's a pity that you don't know how to play the guitar. Otherwise, you'd be able to flirt with pretty girls while talking about the guitar. How handsome and cool would that be?" Pfft, hee hee, Cheng Yannan, Xia Wanfen, and Li Shaoqian were amused by Yuan Chuling's words. The box's door was pushed open from the outside. "You look very happy. What are you talking about?" Chen Xiaofen smiled as she sized up the 5 people in the room. With a bit of scrutiny in her eyes, her gaze finally fell on Tan Xiu, who was sitting cross-legged. Xia Wanfen greeted her and said with a smile, "Aunt Chen, we're talking about Tan Xiu's zither skills. He's being modest to us." Chen Xiaofen slightly smiled and said, "He's the Tan Xiu you mentioned, right? At your age, there are fewer and fewer people who can play the zither, and even fewer boys. Come, let me introduce them to you. These 3 are my good sisters. They are all teachers of our Regal Classical Music Academy. Greetings, teachers." Cheng Yannan, the 3 women, and Yuan Chuling called out one after another. Tan Xiu didn't get up. He just nodded slightly at Qin Xiaofen and glanced at Huang Jia and the others. He had originally come out for leisure and entertainment tonight, and he was very unwilling to let outsiders join in the fun. But Qin Xiaofen was the lady boss of this KTV, so he couldn't refuse. Leave as soon as possible, Tan Xiu thought. Huang Jia and the other 2 frowned when they saw Tan Xiu's expression. They were used to the student's respectful attitude, so when they saw Tan Xiu's indifferent expression, they were unhappy. However, in their eyes, Tan Xiu was just a passerby, and they just came to join in the fun. As the 3 of them sat on the sofa on the other side, Huang Jia glanced at Tan Xiu before she looked at Qin Xiaofen and called out, "Didn't you say that someone is going to sing in the KTV? Why hasn't it started yet? We sisters play music, so we can give some pointers to those students." Qin Xiaofen could hear the teasing tone in her good sister's tone and secretly found it funny. She was also very surprised by Tan Xiu's attitude a moment ago. At this moment, she could naturally hear the dissatisfaction in her good sister's heart. She was ready to teach Tan Xiu a lesson so that he wouldn't be too arrogant. In other aspects, perhaps, these good sisters of hers couldn't teach Tan Xiu, but they were absolutely authoritative in music at this moment. Cheng Yannan, Yuan Chuling, and the other 2 also heard the hidden meaning in Huang Jia's words and turned their heads to look at Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu still had that indifferent expression. Eventually, he didn't even glance at Huang Jia and the other 2 girls. As the box quieted down, he lowered his head and looked at the zither in front of him. Ding! Tan Xiu's slender fingers plucked the strings, issuing a crisp and clear sound. The next moment, his eyes flashed with brilliance as he closed them. His right hand plucked the strings, while his left hand pressed on the strings to get the sound. His finger technique was very peculiar. His right hand wiped, picked, hooked, picked, hit, plucked, rubbed, and locked. His left hand moved up, down, forward and back and forth, moaning, squatting, kneeling, picking, carrying, grabbing, clawing, bumping, pulling, hooking, twisting, and so on. In the haze, Tan Xiu's fingers moved like flowing water. The rustling sound of the zither was like autumn falling. It was a slow rhythm, but it outlined a bleak scene. A few seconds after the sound of the zither sounded, Huang Jie, who was very disgusted with Tan Xiu, was stunned. The KTV proprietress Qin Xiaofen's body stiffened as if she was electrocuted. The pupils of the other two Regal Classical Music Academy's pupils contracted. Their eyes could no longer move away from Tan Xiu's body. The notes touched the soul, causing the four professionals with high attainments in the field of music to feel a sense of melancholy. They were pulled into a world of bleak autumn wind and fallen leaves all over the ground by the melodious and graceful zither sound. Longing. Homesickness. Longing for family. They seemed to see a wanderer who was drifting outside, standing at the end of a winding path in late autumn, overlooking the back of his hometown. They seemed to see a kind-hearted child full of filial piety, but was forced to roll around in a bleak world, worrying about his loving mother in his hometown. Autumn falls like gold, thinking of heirs' sorrow. A deep and hoarse voice, along with the undulating notes of the zither, blended into it without any sense of abruptness. A sorrowful atmosphere, like floating smoke, slowly pervaded the air. On the path to immortality, one hesitates. The scene changed. They seemed to see the path leading to the peak of a mountain, and the young man carrying the immortal sword on his back, struggling to move forward. But with every step he took, he would turn his head and look into the distance. I ask the heavens, I shout to the earth, I roam unhindered for 10,000 years, tread the yellow springs, step on the 9 heavens, bitterly searching for the doorway to heaven. With regret in my heart, it is difficult to fulfill my wish. I wish to regain my former self. In an instant, the hearts of Huang Jie, Qin Xiaofen, and the other women trembled. They felt like they were in a dream. It was as if they had transformed into that supreme immortal who went to the yellow springs and ascended the 9 heavens. They bitterly searched for the door to heaven, the guiding light that could lead them home. Sorrow, pain, bitterness, yearning. The feeling of hundreds of twists and turns and thousands of sorrows lingered in their hearts. 2 lines of clear tears slid down their cheeks and wetted their clothes. Yuan Chuling was shaken, whereas Qing Yannan, Xia Wanfen, and Li Shaoqian, the 3 women, felt as though they had goosebumps all over their bodies. They were stupefied as they listened to Tang Xiu's slow and gradually faster speed, from slow and then to a storm-like performance. They listened to Tang Xiu's low and hoarse voice at the beginning, and then to the end, he roared and screamed to vent his emotions. Sitting in front of the zither, Tang Xiu's fingers plucked the strings faster and faster. He seemed to have returned to the state of playing the zither in the immortal world. His emotions were all integrated into it. The difficulty of the path to immortality and the feeling of missing his loved ones were vividly displayed by his zither music. As time passed, the sound of the zither faded away. Tan Xiu slowly raised his head. He slowly opened his eyes, and a trace of sparkling and translucent tears flowed down from the corner of his eyes. His blurred vision gradually became clear. When he saw the tearful faces of the people in the private room, a feeling of happiness suddenly arose in his heart. Yes. The happiness that rippled in his heart. As a supreme in the immortal world, if he was given a choice, he would rather give up his aloof identity, give up his earth-shaking strength, and become an ordinary person to return to his mother's side. He would accompany her, serve her in her old age, and take care of her in her old age. After a long time, Qin Xiaofen broke away from the world created by the zither music. Her blurred vision looked at Tan Xiu's tearful but smiling face. Suddenly, her heart palpitated. She was moved by the zither music and captivated by the notes. She never thought that there would be such a beautiful zither music in the world. It was as if it was full of magic, making her unable to help but immerse herself in it. Looking at Tan Xiu, she didn't know how to express her feelings. Thousands of words finally turned into 2 words, thank you. Huang Jie sobered up from the aftertaste of the zither music. She angrily looked at Qin Xiaofan, who woke her up. She turned her head to look at Tan Xiu with difficulty. A deep sense of shame made her want to find a hole to burrow into. Just now. She also boasted shamelessly that she would give Tan Xiu pointers, but in the blink of an eye, she was subdued by Tan Xiu's zither music. She was a professional musician and a teacher of the music academy. As a teacher, she just looked at a zither master with disdain. This kind of narrow-minded thinking made her regretful to the point that her intestines turned green. I'm sorry. Huang Jie took a few steps forward and deeply bowed to Tan Xiu to apologize. At this moment, the other people in the box also woke up as if they just woke up from a dream. They looked at Tan Xiu with a shocked expression, as if they had encountered the most inconceivable thing. Boss, Yuan Chuling's lips squirmed a few times, but his voice seemed to be blocked in his throat. Even he didn't notice that the way he addressed Yi Xuan had become respectful. This was a manifestation of respect and worship. The tears in the eyes of Qing Yannan, Xia Wanfan, and Li Shaoqian faded away. But the tears seemed to have washed their eyes, making them look particularly bright at this moment, as if a small star was releasing rays of light. Before, they were also full of contempt for Tan Xiu's zither skills, because they had never heard Tan Xiu say that he could play the zither. And at this moment, the way they looked at Tan Xiu was as if they were looking at a superstar they worshipped in their hearts. This song should only exist in the heavens. How many times can one hear it in the mortal world? A teacher of the Regal Classical Music Academy looked at Tan Xiu with a complex expression as he faintly sighed. Tan Xiu slowly got up and calmly said, "It's getting late. We should go back." No. Qin Xiaofan and Huang Jie shouted at the same time. As their voices faded away, the 2 women realized that they had lost control of themselves and quickly wiped the tears from the corner of their eyes. Standing in front of Tan Xiu, Huang Jie carefully observed Tan Xiu and said with all seriousness, "Are you Tan Xiu? A student of Xingqing City No. 1 High School? Are you going to take the college entrance test soon?" Yes. Tan Xiu nodded. Huang Jie hurriedly said, "You don't need to take the college entrance test. Come to our Regal Classical Music Academy. My husband is the vice president of the Regal Classical Music Academy, and he has a special enrollment quota. You don't need to take any test to study in our Regal Classical Music Academy. I can guarantee you that there will be no problem." Chapter 158. Another female teacher interrupted Huang Jie's words and said with a serious face, "Huang Jie, you're wrong. He can't be a student of our music academy." Huang Jie stared blankly for a moment and blurted out, "What do you mean?" "He's fully qualified to be a student of our Regal Classical Music Academy." The female teacher replied in a deep voice, "Who do you think is qualified to teach him if he becomes a student of our music academy? I think he can directly become a teacher in our Regal Classical Music Academy. As long as he can endure for a few years, it won't be a problem for him to be nominated as a professor." "Teacher? Professor?" Huang Jie patted her head and quickly said, "Yes, yes. His level is indeed not suitable to be a student. Tan Xiu, would you like to come to our music academy? I guarantee that you can smoothly become a zither teacher. If your performance is good, becoming a music professor in a few years won't be a problem." Yuan Chuling, Qing Yannan, and the other 2 were dumbfounded as they looked at the serious expressions of the 2 female teachers and Tan Xiu's tranquil expression. They were shocked, so shocked that they couldn't be any more shocked. What did it mean to reach the sky in a single bound? This was reaching the sky in a single bound. A zither melody had conquered the hearts of the famous teachers of the Regal Classical Music Academy. He didn't even need to take the college entrance test and directly skipped a grade to become a teacher. Even listening to them, Tan Xiu would definitely have a bright future and become the youngest music professor in the country. A god. An amazing man. Was there anyone more amazing than Tan Xiu in this world? Under the expectant eyes of the female teachers, Tan Xiu slowly shook his head and said, I'm sorry, I'm not interested. What? The female teachers exclaimed in alarm, and even Qin Xiaofan looked incredulous. He refused. Such a great opportunity and boundless future, yet he gave it up. Qin Xiaofan was afraid that Tan Xiu didn't know what it meant to be a teacher of the Regal Classical Music Academy, so she quickly said, each of the teachers of the Regal Classical Music Academy, Tan Xiu, has a very high social status and a prominent reputation in the music industry. As for the professors of the Regal Classical Music Academy, they are the music masters of the country. Be it the welfare or the social status, they are the dream of countless musicians. Tan Xiu replied indifferently, I'll fight for money and status in the future, but I won't take the path of music. I like music, but it's just my hobby. Therefore, I have no interest in being a teacher or a professor. Qin Xiaofan opened her mouth but didn't know what to say. Even the 3 female teachers of the Regal Classical Music Academy were dumbfounded, not knowing how to persuade Tan Xiu. Yuan Chuling and Qing Yannan, who were standing at the side, were not ordinary children. They also knew that Tan Xiu had established a group company. However, Xia Wanfan and Li Shaoqian didn't know about it. Especially Li Shaoqian, who wanted to be a star. She quickly said, Tan Xiu, if you can enter the Regal Classical Music Academy, it's equal to having half a foot in the entertainment circle. Don't you want to be a star? I have no interest in being a star. Tan Xiu shook his head. What's wrong with being a star? Li Shaoqian asked incredulously. Your musical level is so high, and you're likely to become a superstar in the music industry in the future. Just promise the 3 teachers. I believe they can do it. Tan Xiu still shook his head and said indifferently, I told you, I'm not interested. Alright, let's call it a night. I still have things to do tomorrow, so I need to rest early. After saying that, he took the lead and walked toward the private box's door. Eldest brother, wait for me. Yuan Chuling strode forward and chased after him. After leaving the Westland KTV, Tan Xiu saw that Qing Yannan and the other 2 girls didn't follow him out. Then, he said to Yuan Chuling, if there's nothing else, you go back first. I'll go to my family's restaurant. Yuan Chuling hesitated for a moment. He didn't hurry to leave, but asked, eldest brother, which university are you going to apply for after the college entrance test? Tan Xiu shook his head and said, I haven't thought about it yet. Let's talk about it after the college entrance test. Yuan Chuling nodded, actually, with your results, it won't be a problem for you to apply for any university in the country. I'm thinking that if you're not going to the top universities in the country, I can apply for the same university as you. If you want to apply for the top universities, I'm afraid it'll be very difficult for me. Tan Xiu said with a smile, actually, it's the same wherever you go to study. It mainly depends on how much you can learn. Besides, you can follow me for a while, but you can't follow me forever. The university you're going to apply for depends on what kind of road you're going to walk in the future. Your family's business is very big, so I think you should ask your dad's opinion. Yuan Chuling forced a smile and said, I went home a few days ago and talked to my dad. I want to study in the imperial capital, and I want to study economics. You don't like it? Tan Xiu asked in surprise. It's not that I don't like it. It's just that I don't want to leave Star City, said Yuan Chuling. I always feel that my parents are hiding something very important from me. It seems that there's a special and profound meaning behind him wanting me to study in the imperial capital. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment before he slowly asked, your parents still haven't told you why they faked their divorce? Nope. Yuan Chuling shook his head. They seem to have something difficult to say, but they don't want to tell me now. I still have to study in the university for 4 years, and I'm afraid that some unforeseen events might happen during this period. Every family has its own difficulties. Tan Xiu sighed inwardly. He patted Yuan Chuling's shoulder and said with a smile, your dad has been doing business for so many years, so he's definitely a man with ideas and ability. I believe he can solve any problems he encounters. Also, considering our relationship, you can tell him to contact me if he encounters any trouble later. Contact you? Yuan Chuling stared blankly. What? Tan Xiao said with a faint smile. You think I can't help your dad? Yuan Chuling forced a smile and said, Eldest brother, I know you've established a company, but you can't solve my dad's problems for the time being. However, I'm already very touched by your words, eldest brother. Tan Xiao shrugged his shoulders and said, whether you listen to my words or not is your business. Anyways, I'm leaving first. River Street Old District. After taking a taxi to his restaurant, Tan Xiao was surprised to find that the restaurant's entrance was crowded. The number of customers coming in and out was very large. The original small restaurant had been expanded twice, with both sides of the storefronts rented and the upper floor opened. Although the two-story building couldn't be said to be imposing, it had a kind of antique charm after the renovation. What made Tan Xiao a bit amused was that there were security guards in black suits on both sides of the entrance. He still remembered that these two guys had once come to the restaurant to make trouble. They used to look like hooligans, but now they had changed their appearance and looked like decent people. Boss. Upon seeing Tan Xiao, the two young security guards' eyes suddenly lit up as they greeted him with a flattering expression. After the incident with Tai Long, they were even more convinced of Tan Xiao and followed Tan Xiao even more. After all, even a powerful person like Tai Long was cleaned up by Tan Xiao. In this star city, was there anything that Tan Xiao couldn't do? Ah! How's the restaurant? Tan Xiao asked as he walked inside. A young man nodded and said with a smile, everything is good. Our restaurant has reopened and the business is even more booming. Whether it's at noon or at night, we're always full of customers. I heard from Brother Ban's Ho that if you want to book a box in our restaurant, you have to book it at least 1 day in advance. Is it that good? Tan Xiao was surprised. The young man said, of course. Our restaurant has good quality and low prices. The food is delicious and the customers like it, especially the returning customers. I know. Tan Xiao said with a smile. After entering the restaurant's entrance, Tan Xiao looked at the busy staff. He found that he had never seen many waiters before. Obviously, they were newly recruited. In front of the counter, there were more than a dozen men and women with impatient expressions. Apparently, they were waiting for a table. You've come. I'll call the boss. A waiter who knew Tan Xiao saw Tan Xiao and immediately called out in surprise. All right. Tan Xiao smiled and walked inside. Hey, what are you doing? Don't you understand the principle of first come, first served? We've been waiting for almost 10 minutes. Even if you call your boss out, you have to arrange it for us first. A middle-aged man with a fierce face stared at him and shouted. Pfft, the waiter couldn't help but laugh out loud. Tan Xiao looked at the dozens of customers and said with a smile, don't worry. I'm not going to grab a table with you. The middle-aged man snorted coldly and said, why are you in such a hurry to go inside? Don't think I don't know the twists and turns of these restaurants. You think that anyone with a bit of status will curry favor with them. In any case, I don't care. As long as the table is free, you must give it to us first. Another middle-aged woman also said, that's right. We're also the regular customers of this restaurant. It's only been a month and this is the 3rd time we've been here. You must let us sit first. The waiter looked at the forced smile on Tan Xiao's face and explained with a smile, everyone, I think you've misunderstood. He's our young master, the son of our boss. What? The middle-aged man with a fierce face was stunned. An awkward expression immediately appeared on his face as he said, about that, hee. Little brother, I didn't know you're the boss's son. I'm really sorry about that. We've been waiting for almost 10 minutes and we've been watching people eating, drinking, and laughing. It's all right, Tan Xiao said with a smile. Having said that, he turned around and walked inside. Wait, A voice sounded behind Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu turned his head and looked at the fat middle-aged man who came out from the crowd and asked with a puzzled expression, "Is there something else?" The fat middle-aged man blinked and immediately said with a smile, "Ah, it's you, my idol. No wonder I felt that you looked familiar. Don't you remember me? You're the taxi driver. Give me the directions and I'll drive. Let's." Tan Xiu's mind moved and he immediately recalled the identity of the fat middle-aged man in front of him. He interrupted him with a smile and said, "It turns out to be you. I still have to thank you." Chapter 159. Upon seeing that Tan Xiu recognized him, the fat middle-aged man immediately felt proud and said with a smile, "It's my duty. It's my job. I thought I would never see my idol again in this life, but I didn't expect to meet you here today. Moreover, I didn't expect that this restaurant would be opened by your family. I've heard from them many times that your family's restaurant is very good. The food is rich, the price is cheap, and the taste is also good. Thank you for the compliment." Tan Xiu nodded with a smile, then turned around and walked inside again. The fat middle-aged man stared blankly for a moment as he watched Tan Xiu walk away. He was somewhat confused, thinking that his words had dissatisfied Tan Xiu. What the hell? Trying to get close to a kid, yet the kid ignored you? It's obvious that your warm face was met with a cold butt. The middle-aged woman who helped him just now looked at the fat middle-aged man with contempt and ridiculed. In an instant, the fat middle-aged man's face turned livid. Tan Xiu, who had walked a few steps away, could clearly hear the ridicule of the middle-aged woman behind him. He slightly furrowed his brows and stopped. He looked back at the familiar waiter and said, "I remember telling my mom to reserve one or two of the most luxurious private rooms to entertain those distinguished guests. Do we reserve any in our restaurant?" "We reserve 2, answered the waiter. "Is there anyone in there now?" asked Tan Xiu. "One of them is occupied." "It's a city leader," answered the waiter. "There's still one vacant." Tan Xiu said, "Let them use the vacant one. I'm acquainted with this fat big brother, and he's a good man." "All right." The waiter nodded respectfully. In an instant, the fat middle-aged man was stunned again. Tan Xiu's praise turned his anger into joy. He even shot a grateful look at Tan Xiu. The middle-aged woman's breathing slightly stagnated, and anger immediately appeared on her face. She reached out to pull the fierce-looking middle-aged man next to her and wanted to leave. The middle-aged man looked at the fat middle-aged man in surprise. Then, he turned to the middle-aged woman and shouted in a low voice, "Don't mess around. Our family has finally gathered here today, and he even gave us the best private room in the restaurant. He's already giving us a lot of face." Humph, the middle-aged woman was obviously a little afraid of the fierce-looking man. She snorted coldly and resentfully turned her head away. Tan Xiu didn't care about these small things anymore. When he came to his mother's office, he found that his mother was using a calculator to calculate the accounts. Seeing the smile on her face, Tan Xiu also felt comfortable in his heart. "Mom, the restaurant's business is so good. I think you should hire someone to help you manage your finances." Upon seeing Tan Xiu, Su Lingyun's eyes immediately lit up. She put down the account book in her hand and smilingly said, "What are you talking about, kid? The job of managing the money could not be handed over to someone else. What if someone falsified the accounts? Although I'm old, I'm still smart. I can handle it." Tan Xiu smiled and said, "Who said my mother is old? You will always be young and beautiful in my heart." "Oh right, I'm on vacation now. I don't have to go to school tomorrow or the day after. I'll take the admission ticket to take the exam the day after that. The venue is in our school." With a concerned expression, Su Lingyun said, "Xiu, don't feel pressured. Just treat it as an ordinary exam. Even if we can't pass the entrance exam to a key university, I'll be satisfied if we can go to an ordinary university. I'm confident that I'll be the provincial top scorer for you, Tan Xiu said. Amused by Tan Xiu's words, Su Lingyun scolded with a smile, "Smelly brat, you only know how to make your mother happy." "That's right, have you finished eating?" "I'll cook for you myself." "I've already eaten," Tan Xiu quickly said. "I've been tutoring a few classmates recently, so they invited me to eat tonight." Looking at his gray-haired mother, Tan Xiu thought for a moment and decided not to go back to Southgate Town tonight. Instead, he would go back to his real home. Spending more time with his mother was his life's biggest wish. In the early hours of the morning, Tan Xiu accompanied Su Lingyun to lock the door and strolled home. The street lights outside were dim and there were few pedestrians. The traffic on the road was like an endless stream of dragons. "Mom, do you come home at this time every day?" "Alone?" Tan Xiu's expression was a bit unsightly. He used his divine sense to observe, but he didn't see Ban's Ho and the others nearby. "Yeah," Su Lingyun said with a smile. "Anyway, this place is very close to our home, and it's only a dozen minutes walk. Look at these street lights, they illuminate the ground, so you don't have to worry about spraining your ankle." "What time does the restaurant open every day?" Tan Xiu asked. "I come here at 9 a.m. every day," Su Lingyun said. "Ban's Ho and the others are the ones who buy vegetables and meat in the morning. Otherwise, I'll be exhausted to death." Tan Xiu nodded and didn't say anything more. He was thinking that his mother would go home late every day, and it was not safe at night. He must find someone to protect her in secret. Nowadays, it was better to be safe than sorry. If something bad happened to his mother, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Back at home, Tan Xiu was lying on the familiar bed and looking at the familiar scene in the room. He felt a headache because of the lack of manpower in his heart. When he was in the immortal world, he had a large number of loyal and devoted subordinates. No matter what the matter was, as long as he opened his mouth, the immortals would do it. But now, he had just returned to Earth not long ago, and there were a lot of things that he had to do by himself. He couldn't be lacking in skills. If he wanted to do his own things, if he wanted to earn money to cultivate, and if he wanted to go to university as his mother wished, he couldn't take the time to protect his mother. Should I cultivate some trusted aids? This thought emerged inside Tan Xiu's mind. However, in this era where money was the mother, he found that he was really too poor. Although he had gotten a lot of money recently, he only had a few million yuan left. For example, the money he got from Tai Long and the compensation from the Rising Dragon Martial School were all taken by Kang Xia to develop the company. Moreover, he had spent a lot of money to buy medicinal herbs recently. I owe Chen Zhizhong too. 5 billion yuan, and 100 million yuan from Gu Xiaoxue. Where can I get a lot of money? Tan Xiu pondered for a long time and finally put aside the idea of cultivating trusted aids at the bottom of his heart. Knock, knock, the dull knocking sound on the door woke up Tan Xiu, who was gradually sleeping. When he put on his clothes and looked at the time, he found that it was 2:00 in the night. Who's knocking the door so late? Tan Xiu's brows deeply wrinkled as he walked out of the room. He saw his mother, Su Lingyun, also coming out with clothes draped over her shoulders. Why would someone knock our door in the middle of the night? Su Lingyun was somewhat hesitant. She didn't know whether she should open the door or not. After all, there was no peephole on the door. It was unclear whether the person outside was a good person or a bad person. Tan Xiu said, "Take a look and you'll know." After saying that, he strode to the door and opened it. The first thing that hit his nose was the pungent smell of alcohol. Immediately after, Su Shangwen's clothes were disheveled and his eyes were bloodshot as he stumbled inside. Tan Xiu's eyes and hands were sharp. He grabbed Su Shangwen's collar and directly threw him outside the door. He watched him heavily fall to the ground with an indifferent expression. "What are you doing here?" Su Shangwen struggled to crawl up from the ground. He shook his head and saw Tan Xiu standing in front of him. He immediately cursed and pounced at him, "You damn little bastard. It's all because of you. If it weren't for you, would this father be so miserable now? Compensate me. Compensate my company, compensate my money. Pa! Tan Xiao slapped Su Shangwen's face, causing him to sit on the cement floor outside the door. He then indifferently said, I don't know what you're talking about. If you drink too much, then go home and sleep. Don't make a scene here. Else, it won't be as simple as losing your company. You won't be able to guarantee your own safety either. Su Shangwen covered his face and scolded while spewing out the disgusting smell of alcohol. You little bastard, you've grown wings, haven't you? You dare to hit this father. Would your family be so good now if it weren't for this father? Your mother and son would have gone begging and died in some corner of the alley. Tan Xiao took a deep breath and turned to look at Su Shangwen, whose face had turned pale. He then said in a deep voice, Mom, if you trust me, let me solve this matter. Go rest. Su Lingyun hesitated and whispered, Xiao, I ordered someone to do it. Don't worry, said Tan Xiao. You can rest assured that there will be no problem with his personal safety. Su Lingyun stared blankly at Tan Xiao. Suddenly, she found that her son had really grown up and no longer needed her to protect him. Furthermore, she also found that her son seemed to have matured a lot in the past 2 months and became a bit mysterious. All right. Su Lingyun was already disappointed with this big brother of hers, so she shook her head and turned to return to her room. Tan Xiao walked out of the room and closed the door from the outside. Then, he reached out to pick up Su Shangwen and strode downstairs. Arriving at the roadside, he fiercely slapped Su Shangwen's face once again, directly knocking him out. He then stretched out his hand to hail a taxi, tossed the taxi driver 200 renminbi and told him Su Shangwen's home address. As the taxi went far away, Tan Xiao retracted his gaze and dialed Qin Zhizhong's number. Although it was already 2 a.m. in the middle of the night, he had no choice but to disturb Qin Zhizhong. In order to prevent his mother from being harassed, he must solve Su Shangwen's matter as soon as possible. He was very glad that he came back to stay tonight. Otherwise, with Su Shangwen's character, his mother would definitely be insulted or even beaten. Master, are you looking for me? Qin Zhizhong's voice came from the phone. Are you asleep? Asked Tan Xiao. Not yet. I have something to deal with. Do you have any instructions for me? How's the progress on Su Shangwen's matter? Asked Tan Xiao. I've already begun to close the net. Su Shangwen's Shangwen real estate company has a lot of problems, and there are even a lot of shady accounts. At most, he will be arrested in 5 days. Even if he can't be sentenced to life imprisonment, I'm afraid he will have to spend more than 20 years in prison. Also. What else? Asked Tan Xiao. Chapter 160. Qin Zhizhong said, his wife had a hit-and-run case 2.5 years ago. Although she escaped at that time, I sent people to investigate it. What's your plan? Send them to prison together. Tan Xiao said indifferently. It was not that he was indifferent, but he knew one thing, even a rabbit will bite when it's cornered. It was said that people who weren't from the same family wouldn't enter the same door. Qin Zhizhong and Zhang Meiyun had the same moral conduct, or even worse, narrow-minded and mean. If Qin Zhizhong was sent to prison, it was unknown what crazy things she would do. As for their children, Tan Xiao had long made up his mind that if they turned over a new leaf, he would let them go. If they didn't repent, he would clean them up in the future. Familial love. For Tan Xiao, it was just a joke. In his heart, there was no familial love in this world except for his mother. A drop of water should be repaid with a fountain. He would be grateful to those who had treated his mother and son well, but he would eliminate all threats to those who dared to trouble his mother. Master, do you have any other orders? Qin Zhizhong's voice came out from the phone again. Tan Xiao calmly said, send someone to keep an eye on Su Shangwen and his wife. I don't want them to harass my mother before they go to prison. Also, If you have time, come to South Gate Town in the evening. Yes. The call ended. Tan Xiu put the phone in his pocket. The ruthless look in his eyes slowly disappeared, but he was still suppressing the anger in his heart. After returning to Earth, the person he hated the most was Su Shangguan. Now, he finally realized the saying, a close neighbor is better than a distant relative. Neighbors could at least smile and greet each other. But his relatives relied on their ice-cold bloodline to constantly create trouble for their families. In the boundless night, Tan Xiu didn't hurry to go home. He was questioning his heart. He found that after returning to Earth, he became restrained when encountering things. There were the fetters of kinship and the constraints of the law. If it was in the immortal world, he wouldn't hesitate to kill anyone who dared to offend him. But in this world, there would always be all kinds of scruples. He was not a cruel and merciless person, but he did not wish for trouble to appear one after another. In his opinion, cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots was the best choice. But those restraints always made it difficult for him to act freely. Still too weak. Tan Xiu sighed in his heart. From his point of view, the law was made for the weak. Only by becoming stronger, whether it was in terms of one's cultivation strength, one's accumulation of wealth, or a symbol of one's status. Half an hour later, Tan Xiu returned home and found that the lights in the living room were still on. His mother was sitting on the sofa in the living room with a coat draped over her shoulders. There were still traces of undried tears on her cheeks. "Mom, go rest." Tan Xiu sighed and said softly. Su Lingyun looked up at Tan Xiu and nervously asked, "Xiu, did you?" Tan Xiu interrupted Su Lingyun and said with all seriousness, "Mom, I stopped a taxi and told the driver to send him back. Also, I want you to erase this man from your mind in the future. Else, not only will you be in pain and sadness, I won't have a good end either. Don't forget how he used to treat us." "But he's..." Su Lingyun hesitated. Tan Xiu directly took out his trump card and said in a deep voice, "Mom, if Su Shangwen's company doesn't close down and he continues to have money, he may have a better life in the future. But he hates us and doesn't want us to have a good life. Do you want to wait for him to become richer and more powerful in the future and force you to transfer the restaurant to him? Do you want me to drop out of school and go home? Or do you want to find a group of local ruffians to smash our restaurant and make us hospitalized?" Su Lingyun's pupils shrunk as the scenes of the past flashed in her mind. She was a kind-hearted person, but she was also ruthless when forced. She heavily nodded and said, "You're right, Xiu. He won't let us have a good life, so we won't let him have a good life either. Mom won't ask about this matter, but you can't do anything against the law." "Don't worry, Mom." Tan Xiu nodded. He then helped her up from the sofa and sent her to the bedroom. The next morning, after waiting for his mother to leave, Tan Xiu quickly went out of the house and rushed to South Gate Town. It was because he had to tutor Yuan Chuling, Qing Yan Nan, and the people from Jingmen Island's everlasting feast hall had arrived and were waiting for him in South Gate Town. He had bought the Tianshan Snow Lotus yesterday, but after thinking about it, he decided not to refine it himself. After all, his current cultivation was limited, and it would consume too much mental and physical energy to refine a top-grade medicinal pill. Although Ji Qimei was injured, she knew how to refine medicinal pills. Once she refined it, it would be good for her injury. After the college entrance test, the most important thing is to find precious ores. I already have the void crack stone now, so as long as I have all the materials needed to refine an interspatial container, I must hurry up and refine it. It's very inconvenient to always hold things with my hands when I'm outside. After returning to South Gate Town with the Tianshan Snow Lotus, Tan Xiu handed over the things to Ji Qimei, who had personally rushed over. After sending her away, he stood in front of the bedroom window and pondered. Human's desire was endless. Tan Xiu's heart had been haunted by the heart's devil countless times, and it had simply reached the point of being tempered into steel. But even so, he still somewhat missed the treasures he had in the immortal world. 2 days passed by in a flash. The college entrance test had finally arrived. At the entrance of Xingqing City's #1 high school. After arriving in a taxi, Tan Xiu found that all the students in his class had arrived. The head teacher, Han Qinggu, was counting the number of people. Tan Xiu, you finally came. Upon seeing Tan Xiu, Han Qinggu finally felt relieved. Tan Xiu said with a smile, there was a bit of a traffic jam on the road, so I came a bit late. Han Qinggu snappily said, can't you come a bit earlier? It's our turn to enter the school. Don't be nervous when we get to the exam venue. Just do your best and strive to get excellent results. Rest assured. Tan Xiu nodded. Soon. After checking their ID cards and admission tickets, the students of Class 10 lined up and entered the school gate. After entering, they separated and looked for their own exam venue. Eldest brother, I'm in the 36th exam venue. Which one are you in? Yuan Chuling, who was holding a stationery bag, asked Tan Xiu. 18. Tan Xiu said. A bit of regret appeared on Yuan Chuling's face as he said, it's a pity that we're not in the same exam venue. Otherwise, I have the confidence to be admitted to the best key university in the country. Tan Xiu snappily said, this college entrance examination is different from the past. It's almost impossible to cheat. You'd better put away that crooked idea and rely on your own real ability to answer the questions. However, he was happy in his heart. Because he just thought that it was not convenient for others to cheat, but it was very convenient for him. When taking the exam, as long as he released his divine sense, he could clearly see the answers on the examinees' test papers in many classrooms. If there were only a few answers, copying might not have any effect. But if there were hundreds of answers, plus his own knowledge, Tan Xiu felt that if he couldn't get a good result in the exam, it would be a waste of his talent. The test papers were handed out. Tan Xiu glanced at all the questions from beginning to end, and then began to answer the questions with great speed. About half an hour later, he had finished answering all the questions in the entire test paper. This time, he didn't hold back. 10 years of hard work, just to pass the exam in the imperial examination. The college entrance examination was to verify the results of more than 10 years of study. Tan Xiu checked the answers. When he was bored, he began to use his divine sense to observe the answers of the other examinees. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The accuracy of the answers of the examinees sitting around him was surprisingly poor. One of them even wrote the most basic essay questions off topic. Hand in the paper. The invigilator said when the time was up. The Chinese exam in the morning, the math exam in the afternoon, and the exams in the next 2 days were spent with the worries of the examinees and their parents. Tan Xiu's exam went smoothly and he was very happy. Because he finally didn't have to stay in the classroom and waste time. The next 2 months of vacation made him feel like a bird flying in the sky. After returning to school, Tan Xiu took a photo with his classmates from Class 10 and immediately left. He didn't have much friendship with his classmates from Class 10. In the class, he only had a good relationship with Yuan Chuling, Qing Yannan, and a few others. Eldest brother, my dad has given me a death order. No matter what, I must invite you to be a guest at home. So, will you come with me now? Yuan Chuling followed Tan Xiu out of the school gate and said with a smile. Tan Xiu glanced at the Mercedes-Benz parked on the roadside outside the school gate as well as the driver standing at the door. After a moment of silence, he said, have you decided which university you want to study? Yuan Chuling nodded, yes, I'm going to Shanghai. Tan Xiu was surprised, didn't your dad want you to go to the imperial capital? What are you going to do there? Yuan Chuling seriously said, my character is not suitable to study in the imperial capital. The public security there is too good, and there are too many playboys there. If I really go to the imperial capital, who knows when I'll have a fight with some playboy. Didn't they say that? A strong dragon can't suppress a local snake. I'm fine in Star City, but I'm nothing in the imperial capital. So I don't want to suffer there. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, I didn't expect you to be so considerate. Going to Shanghai is also good. After all, it's the most prosperous city in the country and also the financial center. If you study hard and work hard, you may be able to have a career in Shanghai. Yuan Chuling said with a smile, eldest brother, don't play dumb with me. Are you going with me or not? Just give me a straight answer. I'll tell you in advance that if you don't go with me, I'll definitely be beaten by my dad when I get home. I'll go. Tan Xiao nodded with a smile. He was perfectly aware of the reason why Yuan Jingxian wanted him to be a guest. It had been more than a month since the kidnapping case. Since the police hadn't come to find him, it meant that Yuan Jingxian and Zhao Jing hadn't said anything about him. He was also aware that some people owed a favor. If they didn't say anything, they would always keep thinking about it. Chapter 161. The reason why Tan Xiao agreed to visit Yuan Chuling's house was to make Yuan Jingxian and Zhao Jing feel at ease. He also wanted to figure out why the couple pretended to divorce. After all, Yuan Chuling was a confidant to him. If he could help Yuan Chuling's family, he wouldn't mind pushing it. Great. Yuan Chuling knew Tan Xiao's character. He was actually ready to be rejected. Moreover, what he just said was also a lie. He was an adult, so his father naturally wouldn't beat him. However, Yuan Chuling was very happy to complete the task assigned by his parents. Half an hour later, the Mercedes-Benz had entered the Golden Emperor Villa complex. This was also a high-end villa complex. Although it couldn't be compared with Southgate Town, the people who lived here were either rich or respectable. Inside the luxurious villa, Yuan Jingxian was sitting in the study room, reading the financial statements with a particularly solemn expression. In front of him stood a middle-aged man in a suit. Boss, our scientific research laboratory has been invaded by unidentified people several times recently. Although we have a strict security system and have intercepted them many times, I'm afraid that those people will take advantage of the loopholes and cause huge losses to us. Do you think we should move the core confidential data in the laboratory to the new laboratory as soon as possible? The middle-aged man said with a helpless expression with a forced smile on his face. Yuan Jingxian didn't rush to answer. He carefully read the financial statements and put them on the table in front of him. Then, he silently shook his head and said, since they have been eyeing us, it's not a good time to move now. It's best if we don't take any action. But once we do, the other party will seize the loopholes. You should know the truth. Therefore, we can only increase the security force for now. The middle-aged man hesitated and said, our trusted security personnel are almost all arranged in the laboratory. How can we increase the security force? Yuan Jingxian said, after all, our business is in cooperation with the military. I've conveyed the problem to the military leaders. I believe they will help us solve it. If they don't take any action, I'll spend a lot of money to hire the best and most professional security personnel in the country. The middle-aged man was confused and said, the loyalty of the security personnel we hire is not high. If those forces spend a lot of money to bribe them, I'm afraid they won't be able to resist the temptation. Yuan Jingxian asked, what's the progress on the information I asked you to investigate? There should be news about the group of special forces soldiers that the military recently secretly retired, right? The middle-aged man said, we've contacted the military and obtained a list of names. Our people are also contacting the other party. But Yuan Jingxian frowned and asked, but what? The middle-aged man said, however, that group of special soldiers who had just retired not long ago seemed to reject us and proposed to compete with the people we sent. As a result, our people couldn't even withstand a single blow. I found a chance to probe them. They seem to respect a special forces captain called Wolf Head. A few of them have already expressed that if we can invite Wolf Head, they will agree to work here. Wolf Head? Yuan Jingxian asked, have you investigated Wolf Head's identity? The middle-aged man shook his head and said, I can't find anything. He simply doesn't seem to belong to this world. All the files are blank. Even when I asked the military to help investigate, there was no result. Yuan Jingxian said, I'm looking for the senior military leaders to find out the identity of this wolf head. Leave the name list and go back first. All right. The middle-aged man took out a piece of paper full of names from his briefcase. After putting it on the table, he turned around and walked out of the room. At this moment, Zhao Jing's figure appeared at the door. With a bit of excitement on her face, she said, Hubby, little Ling sent me a message. She said that the car has entered the villa complex. Let's go to the door to greet him. Yuan Jingxian stared blankly for a moment before he immediately got up. He was full of curiosity about his son's classmate called Tan Xiu. If Tan Xiu had only saved his wife, he wouldn't have deigned to greet him at the door. However, he had recently been very close with the big boss of the Long Group, Long Hanwen, and the big boss of the Endless Virtue Pharmaceutical, Qin Zhizhong. He learned a lot about Tan Xiu from them. Even in his dreams, he had never thought that Tan Xiu turned out to be Qin Zhizhong's master. Up until now, he had yet to clearly investigate what Qin Zhizhong wanted to learn from Tang Xiu for worshipping him as his master. Deep and unfathomable. Unfathomable and mysterious. This was Yuan Jingshuan's true evaluation of Tan Xiu in his heart. Outside the courtyard, when the Mercedes-Benz car stopped in the parking space and the door opened, Zhao Jing's eyes lit up. There was excitement, gratitude, and a trace of fear in her eyes. Until now, she couldn't forget the scene of Tan Xiu killing the kidnapper who wanted to offend her. It's really him. Even though Zhao Jing had seen Tan Xiu's photos countless times, but after seeing Tan Xiu's appearance with her own eyes, she was finally 100% sure that this was her savior. Tan Xiu's expression was very calm. After seeing Yuan Jingxian and Zhao Jing, he let Yuan Chuling pull his arm and came in front of them. Dad, Mom. I've invited Tan Xiu. The task has been successfully completed. Yuan Chuling said with a smile. Zhao Jing's eyes had never left Tan Xiu since he got off the car. After hearing her son's words, she gratefully bowed and said, Tan Xiu, thank you. Tan Xiu said with a faint smile, You're welcome. I should also thank you. Thank me. Zhao Jing stared blankly for a moment. Her eyes revealed a puzzled expression. Yuan Jingxian was a smart man. He instantly understood the meaning of Tan Xiu's words. He pulled Zhao Jing and then said with a smile, Tan Xiu, it's a big case after all. Since you didn't stay there, it means that you don't want others to know that you did it. Even if we want to repay our savior, we can't announce it to the public. This is what we should do. Tan Xiu nodded slightly and said, That matter has been closed. Let's forget about it in the future. Thank you for your kind invitation. I'll have to bother you today. Zhao Jing was also a smart woman, but she was too excited. She didn't understand the meaning of Tan Xiu's words. But after hearing her husband, Yuan Jingshuan's words, she suddenly understood. She said with a smile, Tan Xiu, it's our honor to have you as a guest in our house. How can we bother you? Hurry up, I've personally cooked a table of dishes. Let's eat and talk at the same time. Yuan Jingxian also said with a smile, Tan Xiu, let's go inside and talk. All right. Tan Xiu complied and followed the family of 3 into the villa. Afterward, he chatted with Yuan Chuling's parents for a while and then went to the dining room. Yuan Jingxian personally opened a bottle of wine and said with a smile, Tan Xiu, I don't usually drink, but I like to collect fine wines. I've been collecting this wine for more than 20 years. It's the 100 Flowers wine with excellent taste. Have a taste. Tan Xiu recalled that only the Everlasting Feast Hall's VIPs could enjoy such fine wines. Then, he lightly smiled and said, It turns out that Uncle Yuan likes to collect fine wines. I'll give you 2 bottles some other day. As far as I know, Qin Zhizhong has collected a lot of fine wines. If you can bring me 2 bottles, that's really. Yuan Jingxian said with a smile. His words came to an abrupt halt and his expression slightly stagnated. Tan Xiu's expression moved as he said with a faint smile, "It seems that Uncle Yuan is very concerned about my affairs. You even know that Qin Zhizhong is my disciple." Yuan Jingshuan's mouth slipped and he secretly regretted it. Upon hearing Tan Xiu's words, how could he not understand the underlying meaning? He forced a smile and said, "Tan Xiu, you're my son's classmate and my wife's savior. I want to know more about you. It's just that I didn't expect the result of the investigation to be so unbelievable. I can feel that you're not an ordinary child and should be able to understand my thoughts. I hope you won't take offense." "I understand." Tan Xiu nodded. "Dad, how can my big brother be an ordinary person?" Yuan Chuling said. "Not only is Tan Xiu excellent in his studies, he's also very good in martial arts." "That's right, he has already started his business. Compared to him, I'm simply too weak." Yuan Jingxian and Zhao Jing looked at each other with a surprised expression. "Tan Xiu, didn't you just take the college entrance test?" Yuan Jingxian asked. "You've already started your business? What kind of business? Do you need Uncle Yuan's help?" "Thank you for your kind intentions, Uncle Yuan," Tan Xiu said, "but it's just a small business, so I don't need to trouble you for the time being. I'll ask you if that day comes in the future." "That's good then," Yuan Jingxian said with a smile. "I'll tell you that if you need me in the future, don't hesitate to ask me. As long as I can do it, I'll never refuse. Dad, don't look down on my big brother. He's very powerful," Yuan Chuling said. "Even the famous Kang Xia, Yuan Chuling." Tan Xiu touched him and called out in a low voice. Yuan Jingxian looked at his son and then looked at Tan Xiu. With a confused expression, he said, "Kang Xia? The business genius who recently came to Star City to establish the magnificent Tang Corporation?" Yuan Chuling glanced at Tan Xiu and found an unhappy expression on his face. With a sullen expression, he said, "Big brother, they're my parents. There's no need to hide it, is there?" Tan Xiu sighed inwardly. He looked at Yuan Jingxian and said, "Actually, I'm the owner of the magnificent Tang Corporation. But I rarely ask about the company's affairs, and Kang Xia usually takes care of it." "What?" Yuan Jingxian suddenly got up with a horrified expression on his face. Who was Kang Xia? She was a business genius who had once caused a sensation all over the world. Ever since she left the world's financial center, Wall Street, and returned to China, everything she had done proved that her reputation wasn't undeserved. She was a powerful business genius who had refused countless invitations from large companies, making countless super-rich people feel regretful. Yet, she came to Star City to establish a company, and turned out to be working for Tan Xiu? How could this be possible? Zhao Jing also had a look of disbelief on her face. She had an advertising company in the same building as the magnificent Tang Corporation, so she was very clear about Kang Xia's matter. She also had some knowledge about the magnificent Tang Corporation. But she never thought that the magnificent Tang Corporation belonged to Tan Xiu, nor did she expect that Kang Xia turned out to be working for Tan Xiu. Chapter 162. It was a sumptuous lunch. The dishes looked, smelled, and tasted good. The wine that had been collected for more than 20 years was also intoxicating. Tang Xiu and Yuan Chuling ate and drank to their heart's content, whereas Yuan Jingxian and Zhao Jing were somewhat dull and uninterested. Even after lunch was over, the husband and wife still hadn't completely extricated themselves from the shock. "Uncle Yuan, let's talk alone." Tan Xiu looked at Yuan Jingxian and said. Yuan Jingxian was silent for a moment. He then nodded and said seriously, "Come to my study room. Little Jing, help us brew a pot of tea and send it to the study room." Yuan Chuling was surprised. "Eldest brother, what do you want to talk to my dad about? Why did he have to be so secretive? Can't I listen to it?" Tan Xiu didn't answer. Yuan Jingxian then said with a deep voice, "Little Ling, watch TV in the living room." "All right." Yuan Chuling helplessly shrugged his shoulders and walked to the living room with a lack of interest. Yuan Jingshuan's study room was antique and full of literary atmosphere. There were many precious paintings and calligraphy hanging on the wall. Aside from the laptop on the desk, there were also the four treasures of the study: a writing brush, ink, paper, and an inkstone. The surrounding bookshelves were also filled with various books. Yuan Jingxian called Tan Xiu to the tea table. After the two of them sat on the sofa, Yuan Jingxian asked, "Tan Xiu, what topic do you want to talk to me alone?" "Two topics," said Tan Xiu. "First, I want to ask if Uncle Yuan has any difficulties that are difficult to talk about. Why did you and your husband fake divorce?" Yuan Jingshuan's complexion slightly changed as he said with a deep voice, "Little Ling even told you about this matter?" "Yes," Tan Xiu said. "He was in a lot of pain before. He gave up on himself and hated you. It was me who often enlightened him. Later on, he found out that it was a fake divorce, but you didn't want to tell him about your difficulties. Of course, you don't have to tell me. The second topic I want to talk to you about is to tell you that if you encounter any trouble you can't solve in the future, you can tell me. I'll help you once." Yuan Jingxian fell silent. If he didn't know that Tan Xiu was Qin Zhizhong's master, and if he didn't know that Tan Xiu was the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss, he might have scoffed at this promise. But at this moment, he could not do it. Yuan Jingxian was silent for a few minutes. After Zhao Jing brought the fragrant tea and left the study room, Yuan Jingxian slowly raised his head to look at Tan Xiu and cautiously asked, "How can I believe you?" "You don't have to choose to believe me," said Tan Xiu indifferently. "You don't have to look for me later if you think you can hold on. I'm afraid of trouble. If you weren't Yuan Chuling's father, even if you were a rich boss, I wouldn't even look at you." Yuan Jingxian slightly furrowed his brows and slowly said, "I'm in trouble now, but I can still withstand it. What I do, what I run, is confidential. Not just for me, but for our entire country. So, I can't tell you." Tan Xiu smiled and said, "I understand." Yuan Jingshuan's expression moved as he asked, "I heard that you're very good at martial arts?" "A little bit," said Tan Xiu. Yuan Jingxian forced a smile and said, "There aren't many young men like you, and a low-key young man like you is even rarer. I don't feel that you're a young man when we talk together. On the contrary, it's like I'm talking to someone of the same age and status." "You should be glad that you're Yuan Chuling's father," said Tan Xiu. "If we didn't meet today, maybe you'd have to look up to me if we met 8 or 10 years later." Yuan Jingxian couldn't help laughing and said, "Kid, you're talking big." Tan Xiu confidently said, "Being a powerhouse isn't just a bluff. The road ahead is still very long, so let's walk and see." "Walk and see?" Yuan Jingxian squinted his eyes. Suddenly, a thought flashed in his mind as he probed, "Tan Xiu, you can kill 5 or 6 A-rank wanted criminals, which proves that you're very strong. If I ask you for a favor now, can you do it?" "What kind of favor?" asked Tan Xiu calmly. "I have a laboratory under my company, so I need to divide the core data of the laboratory into 2 parts and send it to another newly established secret laboratory," said Yuan Jingxian. "This data is very important, very important. It's related to the success or failure of my business, as well as whether state secrets will be divulged or not. If I ask you to escort it, can you guarantee that nothing will happen?" Tan Xiu was silent for a moment before he slowly said, "If it's a state secret, why not let the police or the military escort it? I told you that this is top secret information. I don't want other people or forces to get it, including the police and the military," said Yuan Jingxian. "Else, I won't be able to run my business." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "The first batch is free of charge. The second batch will cost you 10 million yuan. If you agree, I'll be responsible for escorting these things. If there are any problems along the way, I'll reimburse you 100 times the price." 100 times? 1 billion. Yuan Jingxian stared blankly for a moment before he slapped his thigh and said, "No problem. It's decided then. Give me 3 days." 3 days later, I'll send out the first batch of information. My men will be responsible for the transportation, and you will be responsible for escorting them. Tan Xiu asked, may I ask, who is the person who wants that information? Yuan Jingxian solemnly said, I can only tell you that it's. And it's not just one force. Tan Xiu nodded and said, I'll bring some people with me 3 days later. You don't have to worry about these people. They are absolutely reliable. Yuan Jingxian asked in surprise, who are you? Tan Xiu said, you don't need to know who they are. Just remember that we will be responsible for the safety of the confidential information. Suddenly, his expression changed as he thought of something and said, Uncle Yuan, your business should be related to the military, so you must have some connections in the military. I want to ask you about something. Speak. Yuan Jingxian nodded. Tan Xiu said, I bought an isolated island overseas and am preparing to set up a security force. Therefore, I want to know that the military is full of talents. Can you help me ask for a list of retired soldiers? I don't have much hope for retired Special Forces soldiers. Those ordinary retired soldiers of the field army will do. As for the number of people, I don't need too many. 30 people are enough. Yuan Jingxian didn't expect that Tan Xiu would ask for this kind of thing. He subconsciously turned his head and looked at his desk. He smiled bitterly inside. A piece of cake. 2 people wouldn't be able to eat it. However, if it were ordinary retired soldiers of the field army, it wouldn't be a big problem. However, Tan Xiu was his wife's savior, after all. If he hid the good things from him, it would be somewhat inexcusable. Otherwise, should I tell him the list? With his ability, it would be very difficult to recruit those unruly retired Special Forces soldiers. If he couldn't do it, then I'll try to recruit them. At that time, not only will I have a clear conscience, but I'll also be able to face him. As Yuan Jingxian thought up to there, he immediately got up and walked to the desk. He took the list and handed it to Tan Xiu, saying, my men have spent a lot of effort to get this list. They are all Special Forces soldiers who have just retired this year. I was going to recruit them myself. If you can recruit them for your own use, then I'll give them to you. But if you can't do it, then don't blame me if I recruit them to my side. Tan Xiu glanced at the list a few times, memorizing the names and contact information on it. Then, he returned the list to Yuan Jingxian, nodded and said, thank you, Uncle Yuan. If I can't invite them, then it has nothing to do with them. But if you can invite them, then I naturally won't have any bad thoughts. Yuan Jingxian laughed aloud, Tan Xiu, you give me the feeling of, the new waves of the Yangtze River push the old waves, while the old waves die on the beach. What's the saying again? Once the wind and clouds meet, they will transform into dragons. You're already so powerful now, so I really don't know how great your achievements will be in the future. As you just said, maybe 8 to 10 years later, I'll really look up to you. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and naturally accepted Yuan Jingxian's praise. Subsequently, after the two chatted for a while, Tan Xiu got up and left Southgate Town. When Tan Xiu came back, he saw Gu Yin leaning on the sofa and sleeping soundly. The house was quiet, and Mu Qingping's figure was nowhere to be seen. Tan Xiu went upstairs to get a blanket and gently covered Gu Yin's body. Then, he personally brewed a pot of tea and drank it in the living room, waiting for Gu Yin to wake up. Since he had nothing to do, he remembered that he had promised Gu Yin that he would take her out to play for a day after the college entrance test. Therefore, he called the new idea training course's teacher and informed her to stop the afternoon class. Tan Xiu liked Gu Yin and doted on his little apprentice from the bottom of his heart. After all, to be able to be tortured by her physique for more than 2 years, but still not die from the pain, her tenacity was really strong. If it were him, with Gu Yin's age, perhaps he would not be able to hold on and die. Moreover, she was very sensible and very filial. Tan Xiao used to love Gu Yenner very much because Gu Yenner's life experience was also very pitiful and she also suffered a lot. Just like a lonely grass in the wild, weathered by the wind and rain, but still living strong. Gu Yin and Gu Yenner were very similar. But now, Gu Yenner suffered all kinds of hardships for him. She even risked the danger of her soul flying away to come to Earth through time and space, which made his heart full of emotion. So, he was also very good to Gu Yin. He believed that in the future, Gu Yin would not let him down. Half an hour later, Mu Qingping came back from outside and saw Tan Xiao in the living room. She was slightly surprised, but when her eyes fell on her daughter, her heart suddenly warmed. Tan Xiao waved his hand to interrupt her. He got up and walked over, saying, Yin is still sleeping. She seems to be very tired, so let her sleep for a while. I just called her tutor and said that she won't continue the tutoring in the afternoon. I promised her that I would take her out to play. Mu Qingping could feel Tan Xiao's love for her daughter. She nodded almost without any hesitation and said, Then you go. I'll do the housework at home. Yesterday, 10 chapters were released. Now I'm still dizzy and sleepy. Rong Jingye needs to rest for a few days before continuing to release. Today, I will release 4 chapters first. I sincerely ask brothers and sisters to support me with your monthly votes. The more the monthly votes, the more intense the updates will be. _. Chapter 163. Star City Zoo. Tan Xiao was holding Gu Yin's little hand as they strolled along the bamboo forest trail in the zoo. In the afternoon, Tan Xiao told Gu Yin that he would take her out to play. She immediately happily agreed, but she didn't like going to the amusement park and wanted to go to the zoo instead. To make her happy, Tan Xiao naturally complied with her wishes. Can I ask you a question? A smile hung on Gu Yin's small face as she said, Please ask, Master. Tan Xiao asked, Other children like amusement parks, but why do you like the zoo? Those small animals are very cute, but I don't think there's much difference between watching them on TV and seeing them with my own eyes, right? The smile on Gu Yin's small face quickly disappeared as a sad look flashed in her eyes. But she still spoke with a strong voice, My dad promised me that he would take me to the zoo in the future. But he never took me there until he died. Tan Xiao suddenly understood and gently squeezed her small hand to comfort her. Gu Yin raised her small face as a smile returned to her face and said, Master, everyone says that a master for a day is a father for life. You've been my master for a long time, and in Yinin's heart, you're my dad. I have no regrets in my heart since you took me to the zoo. Tan Xiao's heart warmed. He reached out to hug her and said with a smile, My Yinin is very sensible. Come, let master kiss you. Hee hee, ticklish. Gu Yin's laughter was as sweet as a silver bell as it fluttered in the bamboo forest. Ring, 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 the mobile phone in Tan Xiao's pocket suddenly rang. Tan Xiao hugged Gu Yin with one hand and took out his mobile with the other. After looking at the caller ID, a surprised expression suddenly appeared on his face. Hello, it's Tan Xiao speaking. Miao Wentang's voice came from the phone, Tan Xiao, I've done what you asked me to do. I'll be in Star City by tomorrow afternoon at the latest. You mean, those housekeeper trainers I asked you to find for me? Tan Xiao asked. Yes, them. Thank you. Tan Xiao was about to hang up the phone when Miao Wentang's voice was heard again, and his tone was a little hesitant. Tan Xiao, can you do me a favor? I ran into some trouble recently. Otherwise, I would have arranged everything for you. Tan Xiao asked, What is it? Miao Wentang said, Xiao Mingjin and I found a sky pit. We suspected that there was a special ore inside, so we explored it several times. However, we returned in failure every time, and we even suffered some injuries. The people we brought along suffered heavy losses. Sky pit. Tan Xiao was puzzled. Miao Wentang explained, a sinkhole is a deep crater formed by a meteorite crashing into Earth. However, there were some problems with the location of the discovery this time. It was in Dongyuan province's prime forest mountain range. The terrain here was dangerous, and there were venomous snakes and ferocious beasts roaming about. If one was not careful, they would fall into the swamp. Most importantly, there seemed to be a formation inside. We tried to break through it several times and indeed reached the edge of the sky pit. But the location of the sky pit was a steep mountain, and there were a lot of underground passages inside the mountain. In short, the situation here is very complicated. Tan Xiu squinted his eyes. He was now anxious to find the ore materials to refine the interspatial ring, and now there was news about a special ore. Therefore, he didn't hesitate and asked, "Where are you now?" Miao Wentong said, "We're in a small town below Cangbei City in Dongyuan province. This small town is called Qingshan Town, located near the prime forest mountain range." Tan Xiu said, "I'll immediately rush there after I settle down those foreign housekeeper trainers. However, let's make an agreement in advance. If we get a precious ore, I want it alone." "No problem." Miao Wentong was overjoyed and agreed without hesitation. After ending the call, Tan Xiu put down Gu Yin and said with a smile, "It seems that not only you will be a student in the future, but your mother will also be a student. I found some very powerful teachers for her from abroad." Gu Yin said with a smile, "Mom is definitely not as smart as me." Tan Xiu pinched Gu Yin's small face and said with a smile, "Our family's Yin is the smartest in the world. Let's go. The lion forest is just ahead, let's go see the lions." N. For the whole afternoon, Tan Xiu took Gu Yin to the zoo and enjoyed themselves to their heart's content. In the evening, he took Gu Yin to eat at McDonald's and then returned to Southgate Town. At night, Tan Xiu contacted Long Zhengyu and learned that he was drinking in the Long's dining hall, so he immediately rushed there. Those foreign housekeeper trainers would arrive tomorrow, so he needed to arrange their accommodation in advance. Furthermore, it would be best to find a suitable villa in Southgate Town. Neon lights flashed in the Long's dining hall at night, as if a group of stars had fallen to earth. Tan Xiu had been here several times, so he was familiar with the place. The security guard at the gate also had a very good memory. After recognizing Tan Xiu's identity, he directly let him pass. "Huh? Boss?" Suddenly, a bewildered voice came from inside the Long's dining hall. Tan Xiu looked toward the source of the voice and found that it turned out to be Andy with a child's face and a Lolita appearance. Slightly nodding, Tan Xiu walked over and asked, "Are you here to have a meal?" Andy wore a very beautiful floral skirt tonight, with her long hair draped over her shoulders. She was wearing a pair of low heels with light makeup on her face. Upon hearing Tan Xiu's inquiry, she giggled and said, "Chief Kong was invited here to participate in the charity party. She doesn't like to bring a male companion, so she asked me to accompany her." "Are you also here to participate in the charity party?" Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "I'm here to look for someone." Andy said with a smile, "Boss, are you looking for a woman? Or a man? You're so outstanding, if you're looking for a woman, I'll be jealous." Tan Xiu let out a faint smile. He had heard about the openness of foreign girls, so he didn't mind Andy's words. Therefore, he didn't take Andy's words seriously. He smiled and said, "The man is my friend. You don't want to participate in the charity party, but what are you doing here? Is the charity party already over?" "The charity party hasn't started yet," said Andy. "It's me who came early, so I'm waiting for Chief Kong here." Tan Xiu said, "If that's the case, then wait for her here. I still have something else to do, so I'll go inside first." Andy quickly said, "Boss, can you take me inside? Although the security guards here let me in, I'm not a member here. They only asked me to wait here, and I'm not allowed to go inside before Chief Kong comes." Tan Xiu was surprised and asked, "They let you enter the gate, but they won't let you go inside?" Andy nodded again and again. With a pitiful look on her face, she said, "Yeah. They won't let me go inside. I had lunch very early, so I'm starving now. Tan Xiao waved his hand at the security guard who kept looking at him. When the security guard quickly came to Tan Xiao, he respectfully said, "How can I help you, sir?" Tan Xiao pointed to Andy and said with a smile, "She's my company's employee, so I'll take her inside." The security guard hesitated and said, "Sir, you've been here before, so I know you. I can let you go inside, but I need to ask for instructions if you want to take someone else with you. I'm looking for Zheng Yulong," said Tan Xiao lightly. The security guard stared blankly for a moment before he quickly showed a more respectful expression and said, "Sir, since you're Chief Long's friend, then you're our VIP here. Please." Tan Xiao nodded and led Andy inside. What Tan Xiao didn't expect was that Andy actually pulled his arm and even made a face at the security guard. "She's just a kid." Tan Xiao felt that Andy's temperament was a bit funny. Quickly, Tan Xiao took Andy to the main building. Looking at the well-dressed guests inside, he secretly sighed inside. For ordinary people who wanted to come to the Long's dining hall, unless they knew some powerful people and followed them, it would be very difficult for them to enter the door, let alone spend money here. The two of them took the elevator to the 16th floor. Tan Xiao looked at Andy and said, "I have some time to talk with my friend, so you can find a place to eat." Andy smiled and asked, "Boss, do you want to reimburse me?" Tan Xiao was at a loss whether he had to laugh or cry as he said, "No need. Just treat it as eating from a rich person. My friend is very rich, so put it on his account. In addition, I'll tell him to find someone to help you apply for a membership card here. In the future, you can come whenever you want." Andy blinked her eyes. Her legs instantly tightened and slightly bent, and then she instantly jumped up. Her height just happened to reach Tan Xiao's face. When Tan Xiao was caught off guard, she kissed his face. When Andy's feet landed on the ground, she beamed with a smile and said, "I knew it. My boss is sent by God to save me. Please let me be your lover. I'll serve you well later." Tan Xiao was dumbfounded. Looking at Andy's cute face, he was shocked by her boldness and straightforwardness. After hesitating for a moment, he raised his hand to touch Andy's forehead. A few seconds later, he muttered to himself, "You don't have a fever. How come you're talking nonsense?" Andy stared with her big round eyes and loudly said, "Boss, I really want to be your lover. Don't think that I'm a casual girl. I'm telling you, I'm still a virgin. If you don't believe me, you can give it a try." Her voice was a bit loud, causing many people in the surroundings to suddenly look at them. When they saw Tan Xiao and Andy, they were first shocked by Andy's angelic and cute appearance. Then, they looked at Tan Xiao with a shocked expression. They really couldn't figure it out. An angelic girl actually clamored to be that boy's lover? What identity did he have? What charm and qualifications did he have? Nearby, a handsome young man happened to pass by the two of them. Upon hearing Andy and Tan Xiao's words, he suddenly stopped. His greedy eyes stared at the two big weapons on Andy's chest and then said, "Little sister, this brat doesn't know how to flirt. It's too boring to be his lover. How about you be this big brother's lover? I promise I'll make you happy." Pervert. Andy turned her head and glared at the young man. Chapter 164. The young man was called Huang Su, the famous young master of the Huang family in the provincial capital, Blue City. He was also a famous hedonistic son of rich parents. The reason why he came to Star City this time was firstly to see his old friend, and secondly, to see a very famous talent in Star City recently. Upon hearing Andy's cursing, an inconceivable look was revealed in his eyes. He pointed at his nose and asked, "What did you say I am? Rogue? How am I a rogue? You're clamoring to be another man's lover. This is already an immoral thing. I asked you to be my lover, yet you say I'm a rogue. If I'm a rogue, then what is he?" After saying that, he then pointed at Tan Xiao, feeling depressed inside. Andy turned to look at Tan Xiu. Her eyes sparkled like little stars as she spoke with undisguised liking. He's my boss, and also my target to develop into a lover. I don't know who you are, but I can assure you that you're absolutely less than 1/10 of my boss. No, it's 1/10,000th. Pfft, the surrounding guests stopped their footsteps and were ready to watch the show. Upon hearing Andy's words, they couldn't help but burst into laughter. Huang Su's expression was a bit awkward, but he still stuck out his chest and said, "Little pretty girl, you must see clearly that this big brother can come to the Long's dining hall, which means that my identity is not simple. I'm not afraid to tell you that if you go to the provincial capital of Blue City and inquire about my name, everyone in the streets and alleys will know me. If you follow me, you'll definitely eat and drink well. You can sleep until you wake up naturally and count money until your hand cramps. How about it? Not bad, right?" Andy looked at Huang Su with contempt and ridiculed, "Just because you have some stinky money you want to show off? Who do you think you are? The head of the state? Or the richest man in the world? Does the entire Blue City know you? Don't tell me you're Britney Spears." Bitter. Mean. Andy's words were like a knife stabbing into Huang Su's heart, making his complexion turn livid in an instant. Never once in his dreams did he expect that such a delicate and lovely girl as pure as an angel would unexpectedly say such ruthless words. Standing at the side, Tan Xiu gently patted Andy's shoulder as he looked at Huang Su and said, "Get the hell out of here if you don't want to court disaster. We still have things to do. If you want to find someone to play with you, I can give you an idea." Although Huang Su is a debauchee, he is not stupid enough to think that Tan Xiu is easy to bully. After all, those who can come to the Long's dining hall are not easy to deal with. Especially since this place wasn't Blue City, but Star City. As the saying goes, a powerful dragon cannot suppress a local snake. If the identity of the young man in front of him was not ordinary, he would probably be at a disadvantage. And his motto was, "A wise man does not fight when the odds are against him." Therefore, Huang Su looked at Tan Xiu cautiously and asked, "Who are you? You sure talk big." "You don't need to know who I am," said Tan Xiu lightly. "If today's matter is settled, we'll be passers-by A and B, and we'll have nothing to do with each other in the future." Huang Su furrowed his brows and asked in a deep voice, "Then tell me your idea." Tan Xiu said, "If you have excessive hormones, don't casually harass other girls. You can go to the roadside to find a hair salon or a foot wash shop. The prices there are cheap, and there are experienced drivers to serve you." "What?" Huang Su was dumbfounded. He looked at Tan Xiu with an inconceivable expression. He almost couldn't restrain himself and punched Tan Xiu. What was his identity? Did he need to go to a roadside hair salon? A foot wash shop? If he wanted a woman, he could just beckon his finger and a group of beauties would throw themselves at him, begging him to pamper them. Was this guy's eyesight bad? Or was there something wrong with his brain? Didn't he think before he spoke? Tan Xiu no longer paid attention to Huang Su. He pulled Andy and walked toward the private box where Long Zhengyu was in the corridor. In his opinion, Huang Su was indeed a passerby. Talking to him for a few more words was already a sign that he was looking up to him. Suite A1608. Long Zhengyu was holding a young and beautiful girl in his arms. He was chatting with a young man wearing a flowery vest, big pants, and flip-flops. Inside this suite, there were also dozens of beautiful women. Some of them were laughing together, some were singing with microphones, and some were like little maids, constantly mixing foreign wine. The moment Tan Xiu opened the door, more than a dozen pairs of eyes in the room suddenly looked at him. "It's quite lively here." Tang Xiu entered the room with Andy and looked at Long Zhengyu, who got up and said with a smile. Long Zhengyu smiled and waved at the singing girl, hinting her to stop first. After the room quieted down, he smilingly said, "My friends from Blue City came over today, so I invited them to drink some wine and have some fun. It's just that I didn't expect that the handsome Tang bro would come with such a beauty. TSK, this little angel is really beautiful." No wonder she can enter your eyes. A filthy mouth can't spit out ivory. Tan Xiu snappily scolded with a smile. Long Zhengyu laughed and turned to the lazy young man, saying, Fei Shan, he's Tan Xiu, the one I told you about. Tan Xiu, this is Fei Shan, the second son of the Fei family in Blue City. He's very wild and arrogant, but he's also very lazy. He's a man of temperament and is worth making friends with. Tan Xiu didn't like Long Zhengyu's friend, but he still nodded to him out of consideration for Long Zhengyu's face. Fei Shan, on the other hand, didn't show an arrogant look and said with an easygoing smile, Hello, Tan Xiu. I've been looking forward to meeting you for a long time. We came to Star City this time to meet with young Master Long, and also to see you, whose reputation resounds like thunder in our ears. What's the matter? Asked Tan Xiu. Ugh. Fei Shan was stunned by Tan Xiu's question and secretly smiled wryly inside. Can't I see you if I have nothing to do? Upon seeing this, Long Zhengyu hurriedly said with a smile, It's nothing. I've heard a lot about you, so I wanted to come and get to know you. Tan Xiu, you can contact him if there's anything you need in Blue City in the future. This brat is a local tyrant in Blue City, and he can handle many things. Connections? Tan Xiu seemed to understand Long Zhengyu's meaning as he nodded to Fei Shan and said, I have something to discuss with Long Zhengyu today. Let's find some time to sit alone later. Deal. Fei Shan said with a smile. At this moment, the door was pushed open again as Huang Su walked in with a dejected and embarrassed expression. When he saw Tan Xiu and Andy inside the room, he suddenly stared blankly for a moment before an angry expression appeared on his face. He glared at Tan Xiu and shouted, Brat, you left fast just now. I didn't expect you to appear here. Don't think I can't clean you up in Star City. Tan Xiu looked at Huang Su with an inexplicable expression before he turned to Long Zhengyu and asked, Do you know him? Long Zhengyu quickly said, Tan Xiu, is there any misunderstanding between you? He's another friend of mine, Huang Su, the young master of the Huang family in Blue City. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, Long Zhengyu, I originally thought that the saying, birds of a feather flock together, was very reasonable, but it seems that I was wrong today. This guy is not a good thing, yet you're actually mingling with him. Forget it, you can play with yourself. I'm leaving first. Don't. Long Zhengyu forced a smile and stopped Tan Xiu. He then fiercely glared at Huang Su and angrily shouted, What's the matter with you, brat? You asked me to take you to see Tan Xiu, yet you have eyes but failed to recognize empty tie. I know Tan Xiu's character. He never takes the initiative to provoke trouble. Did you do something out of line? Did you make Brother Tang unhappy? He's Tan Xiu. Huang Su's eyes turned wide as he asked in astonishment. Of course he's Tan Xiu. Long Zhengyu angrily said, Didn't I tell you before? Brother Tang will come here tonight. An awkward expression appeared on Huang Su's face. He recalled all the things that happened between him and Tan Xiu before. He forced a smile and spread out his hands, saying, I was rude before, Brother Tang. I didn't expect that you're Tan Xiu. I heard a lot of stories about you from Long Zhengyu, and I admire you very much. This can be considered as a flood rushing against the Dragon King's temple. You're a family that doesn't recognize each other, no? Hee. Tan Xiu sighed inwardly. He didn't like Huang Su's character that easily attracted disaster. After all, such a person like him would have been slaughtered hundreds of times if he was in the immortal world. However, since Huang Su was Long Zhengyu's friend and he still had something to ask from him, he didn't feel like getting to the bottom of it. Forget it. Just treat it as if nothing happened before. Pay attention later. It's best to inquire about the other party's details before provoking him, else you'll easily suffer a loss. Being lectured by Tan Xiu, Huang Su was a bit annoyed, but he still nodded. Long Zhengyu smiled and pulled Tan Xiu to sit on the sofa. At the same time, he drove the women out and asked, Brother Tang, you said you wanted to find me for something. What's the matter? Tan Xiu said, get something to eat first and tell Andy to eat. Long Zhengyu pressed the bell at the side and a waiter quickly arrived. After Long Zhengyu told him about Tan Xiu's request and ordered a lot of the Long's dining hall's specialties, he looked at Tan Xiu and said, can you tell me now? What's the matter? I've invited several steward trainers from abroad, Tan Xiu said, they'll arrive in Star City tomorrow. I'm going to arrange them in Southgate Town. That place is, after all, your turf. I want you to help me contact them and see if there's anyone willing to rent a villa. I need to rent it for a few months. Long Zhengyu looked at Tan Xiu with a strange expression and said, you brat, are you doing this on purpose? Do you know that I just bought a villa in Southgate Town? You bought it? Tan Xiu asked with a confused expression. In Southgate Town. Long Zhengyu forced a smile and said, I only have one for myself. Didn't I give it to you? It just so happens that I have a friend who is preparing to emigrate abroad. He bought a villa in Southgate Town and wants to sell it. I'm going to spend some money to renovate it. Ha ha ha, Tan Xiu laughed happily. Looking at Long Zhengyu's depressed expression, he said with a smile, rent the villa to me for a few months. I'll return it to you after those steward trainers from abroad leave. Long Zhengyu shook his head and sighed, you're simply my nemesis. Anyway, I haven't renovated it yet. You'll have to wait if you want to move in. You can use it if you want. I'll ask my cousin to send the key to your house. Your cousin? Tan Xiu was a bit confused. Chapter 165. Looking at Tan Xiu's confused expression, Long Zhengyu's mouth curved into an arc as he said with a smile, Long Shuiao is my cousin. Don't tell me you don't know. Tan Xiu was surprised, she's your cousin. I really didn't know. However, I've neglected that there are not many people surnamed Long. You're surnamed Long, and so is she. Besides, she's also the property manager of Southgate Town, so it's normal for her to be your relative. Long Zhengyu said with a smile, then, this matter has been decided in an unpleasant manner. So that I won't be depressed anymore, you have to accompany us to drink a few cups tonight. Tan Xiu looked at Andy as he nodded and said, all right, I'll stay and accompany you to drink a few cups. This is Andy, Kang Xia's right-hand woman. She's going to accompany Kang Xia to participate in the charity auction, so she's very hungry now. Let her eat something to fill her stomach when the food is served. Long Zhengyu was surprised, Andy? The famous witch, Andy? Andy smiled tenderly, are you praising me, Mr. Long? Or are you scolding me? Though I'm not particularly proficient in Mandarin, I can sense that something is amiss. Ugh, Long Zhengyu's expression stagnated as he secretly rolled his eyes inside. Not particularly proficient in Mandarin. A foreign girl who's not particularly proficient in Mandarin can understand the meaning behind my words. Shaking his head, Long Zhengyu forced a smile and said, I misspoke. Those who said that you're a witch are blind. You're so cute, just like a fairy who fell to the mortal world. You're not a witch at all. If I ever hear someone say that you're a witch, I'll definitely beat him into a pig's head. Hee hee. Andy's laughter was like a flowery branch trembling as the two big lethal weapons on her chest surged. All the men present, including Tan Xiu, couldn't help but secretly swallow their saliva. Tempting. It's really tempting. The four young and vigorous men muttered inwardly, you're not a witch, nor an angel. You're just a little seductress who can bring calamity to the country and people. Cough, cough. Tan Xiu concealed the awkwardness in his heart and changed the topic. Long Zhengyu, your brother hasn't come to harass me recently. Where did he go? Long Zhengyu shook his head and smilingly said, he went to Blue City. I didn't know what that kid was thinking. He told my father that he wanted to start a career. He wanted to go to Blue City first and make a name for himself. Then, he would go to Shanghai to develop himself. As a matter of fact, he asked my dad for 5 million yuan. After he went to Blue City, there has been no news of him for more than 10 days. Did he really leave Star City? Tan Xiu was surprised. Long Zhengyu asked curiously, you seem to know something. Tan Xiu smiled and said, it's me who told him to go out and explore the world. I feel that he won't have much prospects in the future if he's always under the protection of you and your parents. He was smart and knew how to do business, but he had no ambition. I provoked him, but I didn't expect that he would really go out to explore the outside world. That's right. Fei Shan and Huang Su glanced at each other. They both knew Long Zhenglin and also knew that he had a haughty and arrogant personality. But they didn't expect that he would listen to Tang Xiu's words and attach so much importance to Tang Xiu's opinion. In a flash, their impression of Tan Xiu deepened a bit. Young Master Long, your second brother went to Blue City and didn't even contact me. You're really not a good brother. I'll look for him after we go back. I'll help him open the green light no matter what business he wants to do. Fei Shan also said with a smile, I may not be able to help him if it's in other places. But in Blue City, it's quite useful for us to say a few words. Your second brother is not a good person, so it's inevitable that he'll run into some local bullies in Blue City. What's that saying again? Wicked people need to be tempered by wicked people. We're in Blue City to watch him, so you can rest assured. Long Zhengyu grabbed the mixed wine on the table and stuffed a cup into Tan Xiu's hand. Then, he raised it and said, to express my gratitude, I propose a toast to you. Cheers. A cup of wine entered his stomach. Tan Xiu smacked his lips as he shook his head and said, I've heard of this wine, but I've never tasted it. It's really disgusting. I think the strong liquor brewed in our country is more flavorful. Fei Shan's eyes lit up. He immediately walked to the cabinet at the side and grabbed a bottle of unpackaged wine. After returning to his seat, he handed it to Tan Xiu and said, Brother Tang is a man, so you know that men like us drink strong liquor. How about you try this bottle of wine I brought from Blue City? Tan Xiu took the bottle of wine and looked at the words, serving the people, on the bottle as well as the yellowed wine inside. He was surprised and said, is this the legendary special wine? Fei Shan raised his thumb and praised, you have a good eye, Brother Tang. This is indeed a special wine provided by the military. My brother is the chief of staff of a military region in the northeast. He brought this wine back for my grandfather. I snuck it out. I heard from him that this wine is nearly 30 years old and was stored in a mine's cellar in the northeast. I just got it half a year ago. Tang Xiu let out a faint smile. Let alone wine that had been stored in the cellar for nearly 30 years, he had even drunk wine that had been stored for thousands of years. However, it was still a fine wine stored on earth for 30 years. He opened the bottle cap and poured 4 cups. He picked up a cup and drank it. Suddenly, he felt a strong and mellow taste lingering on his tongue. It was as if a ball of fire had flowed down his throat and finally exploded in his chest. The intense heat quickly flowed into his abdomen and eventually spread to his limbs and bones with his abdomen as the center. Nice! Tan Xiu couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. He felt that this cup of wine tasted better than the fine wine in the everlasting feast hall. Suddenly, he had an impulse to brew a batch of wine himself. After all, there were many people in the world who loved wine. If he could find someone who could really taste good wine and let them taste the wine he brewed, it would definitely be a happy thing. Tan Xiu knew how to brew wine, and the wine he brewed was absolutely the best. Fei Shan's eyes were particularly bright at this moment. It was as though he had met a confidant. He felt a bit closer to Tan Xiu as he said with a smile, it seems that stealing this bottle of wine is worth it, Brother Tang's praise. I didn't expect that Brother Tang is also a wine lover. It's a pity that this kind of wine is too rare, else we can drink to our heart's content in the future. Tan Xiu said with a smile, wait for a while if you want to drink good wine. If I go to Blue City to study at the university, I'll bring some good wine to your satisfaction. The thought flashed in his mind and he was about to do it. Tan Xiu was planning to brew some good wine. In any case, he could easily find the brewing materials and the cost of the wine was very low. Since he had nothing to do during the summer vacation, he could brew some. If he couldn't drink it, he could send it to his mother's restaurant. Brother Tang, do you have any good wine there? Fei Shan asked curiously. I don't have any now, but I'm going to brew some, Tan Xiu said with a smile. You know how to brew wine, Brother Tang? Fei Shan was surprised. I've brewed it before, and the taste is pretty good, Tan Xiu said with a smile. Brother Tang, it seems that you're not only a wine lover, but also a wine addict. Fei Shan clapped his hands and said with a smile. I'm looking forward to the wine you brew. When you go to Blue City, I'll hold a welcoming dinner for you at the best hotel there. Huang Su patted Fei Shan's shoulder and said with a smile, how can it be your turn to hold a welcoming dinner for Brother Tang? I said something wrong today, but I haven't had a drink yet. Brother Tang is a magnanimous person and won't stoop to my level. But I, Huang Su, will keep this matter in mind. I'll be the host when Brother Tang arrives in Blue City. Of course, I can also taste the wine brewed by Brother Tang while I'm at it. Hee hee. Tan Xiu nodded with a smile. Though he didn't like Huang Su, but as the saying goes, one shouldn't slap a smiling face. Huang Su had repeatedly expressed his goodwill, so he didn't need to give him any face. Not to mention, he was well aware of the fact that connections were absolutely a divine weapon in the country. If he could make good use of it, it would be very convenient for him to do many things in the future. Andy had no interest in the wine, but she listened to their conversation with great interest. In particular, she found that Long Zhengyu and the other two were trying to befriend Tan Xiu. She felt sweet inside, thinking that her vision of men was right. In fact, she threatened to be Tan Xiu's lover tonight. Aside from 20% of her sincerity, the other 80% was just a joke. She might not have a big stature, but she had an exquisite mind. Those who knew her well were aware that she was the kind of person who would speak in a human's language and speak in a human's language. However, Andy could feel that she and Tan Xiu had become a lot closer after tonight's matter. She also realized that even if Tan Xiu was not a gentleman, he was not a fickle person either. She came to China with her parents at the age of 8 and lived for 6 years before returning to the United States. Especially after returning to the United States, she made a lot of Chinese friends, so she had a deep understanding of Chinese customs. If it weren't for her Western face, no one would have thought that she was a foreign girl. Dear guests, the dishes you ordered are ready. A middle-aged man who looked like a manager entered the private room. Behind him were more than 10 waitresses who were carrying plates of food. Before he could even see the covered dishes, he could already smell the fragrance of rice. Long Zhengyu looked at Tan Xiu and said, how about we eat some more? Tan Xiu smiled and said, good wine and good food, we should eat more. Immediately, when they came to the restaurant and saw the dishes on the table, they suddenly felt hungry. Just as they were about to eat and drink, Andy's cell phone rang. It's Chief Kong. Andy took out her cell phone and looked at the number displayed on the screen. Tan Xiu asked, when will the charity auction start? Andy said, 8:30. There are still 20 minutes from now. Tan Xiu said, in that case, let her come over and eat something first. Tell her not to work all day and rest when it's time to rest. Only by combining work and rest can we create more wealth. Andy smiled sweetly and said, it's our happiness to have such a good boss like you. Today's 4 chapters have been updated. Quiet Night can finally lie down and rest. She will get up tomorrow and continue to work hard. These days, I've been asking for monthly votes like a lunatic. Even in my dreams, I ask my brothers and sisters to understand Quiet Night. If you have monthly votes, you must support Quiet Night. Thank you. Chapter 166. Inside the dining room, Huang Su couldn't help but curl his lips upon hearing Andy's words. He thought, you'll be happier if you have such a good lover like him. I really don't know how this Tan Xiu did it. Not only does he have such a powerful ability, but he can also make a peerless beauty take the initiative to throw herself into his arms. Shortly after, Kang Xia, who learned that Andy and Tan Xiu were together, came to the A1608 suite. She and Long Zhengyu had met before. Although she didn't know Huang Su and Fei Shan, she still wore a smile and greeted everyone. Finally, she glanced at the smiling Andy and sat next to her. "Boss. I'm working myself to death in the company, but you're here. It's really unfair. How about you accompany me to the charity auction?" Kang Xia smilingly looked at Tan Xiu and said. Tan Xiu shook his head. Just as he was about to speak, he heard Long Zhengyu say, "It's the charity auction organized by Yang Weilan, isn't it? I originally wanted to participate, but I'm not going because of the arrival of these two friends. Since you want to go, then I'll also join in the fun. Fei Shan, Huang Su, both of you come too. Although our Star City isn't as good as Blue City, you may find something you're interested in at the charity auction." Fei Shan and Huang Su nodded with a smile. Tan Xiu looked at them and finally said with a forced smile, "If that's the case, then I'd like to experience it myself. To be honest, I've never participated in those upper-class charity galas." Fei Shan stood up and said with a smile, "In fact, this charity gala has two main purposes. The first one is the charity auction, which is actually a donation. The second one. Most of the people who can attend this level of charity gala are celebrities in the business world, as well as the young masters and daughters of big families. There's no lack of young people among them. It's best if you can meet someone you like and marry them." Upon hearing this, Tan Xiu suddenly lost his interest. However, since he had already promised, it was not good for him to go back on his words. Fei Shan said with a smile, "You guys eat first. I'm going to change my clothes. Else, I'm afraid I'll be kicked out of the charity auction with this outfit." 10 minutes later. Everyone ate some food. When Fei Shan regretted his decision, they rushed to the 18th floor, where the charity party was held. Since Kang Xia had an invitation card and Long Zhengyu was the young master of the Long family, many people knew him. The group didn't encounter any obstruction and entered the brightly lit banquet hall. The soft light from the crystal lamp shone on everyone. There were many people in the banquet hall. At least 100 people had arrived. Every one of them was well dressed and elegant. Even if an ordinary person wanted to imitate that temperament, it would be very difficult to imitate it vividly. The arrival of this group of people attracted a lot of attention. Many people even came up to him with red wine in their hands. Although Long Zhengyu was the young master of Star City's Long family and was now famous in the business world, but compared to Kang Xia's popularity, it was much weaker. However, before Tan Xiu came, he asked Kang Xia and the others to keep his identity a secret, so Kang Xia didn't announce Tan Xiu's identity. Seizing this opportunity, Tan Xiu, Fei Shan, and Huang Su went to the sofa and sat down. It's almost the same as in the TV series. After sitting down, Tan Xiu gave such an evaluation. Fei Shan and Huang Su looked at each other. Both of them were at a loss whether they had to cry or laugh. At this moment, they believed that this was the first time Tan Xiu attended such an upscale charity banquet. "Brother Tang, there are a lot of socialites here tonight. Even the organizers have invited a lot of female stars. Look over there. That little star has at least participated in several TV series. Although she's not even a B-list star, it's obvious that someone wants to promote her." Huang Su was fond of women. His pair of shifty eyes always lingered on the women in the banquet hall. Tan Xiu looked at the direction of his finger, but he didn't recognize that little star. She had once participated in that TV series. Shaking his head, he said with a smile, "I'm still in school, so I don't have much interest in women. If you like them, you can hook up with some of them. But I advise you not to look for those with male companions. You'll be hated by others." A bit embarrassed, Huang Su forced a smile and said, "Brother Tang, I may like beautiful women, but I won't hook up with them whenever I see them. When we met tonight, it was mainly because your female companion was too beautiful. I may have countless women, but I don't even have one of that level. Tan Xiu shook his head with a smile. He had seen a lot of beautiful women. The female celestial maidservants in his immortal palace were as beautiful as Andy. There were even a few who were comparable to Andy. When he chose an immortal companion, he mainly looked at the other party's cultivation and character. But it was a pity. He didn't expect that the woman would eventually betray him. It was also for this reason that Tan Xiu didn't want to have too much involvement with women at the moment. If he had any physical needs, he could just find a woman who was willing to be with him. He didn't want to invest too much in relationships. Perhaps, he would find a woman who was pleasing to his eyes to satisfy his mother's wish to be a grandmother in the future. 10 minutes later. Just as Tan Xiu was a bit bored and wanted to leave early, Andy came to Tan Xiu with a plate of desserts and sat down next to him. Her big watery eyes looked at Tan Xiu and affectionately said, "Boss, have some desserts. This is the best one I've picked." Tan Xiu nodded. He picked up a piece and ate it, saying, "Why don't you accompany Kang Xia?" "What are you doing here?" "I often attend this kind of party, and I think it's boring," said Andy. "Those men are all perverts, always looking at me with lustful eyes. It's very annoying. I'm the boss's lover, how can I let them look at me?" Cough, cough, Fei Shan, who just drank 2 mouthfuls of red wine, directly choked upon hearing Andy's words. Face flushed, he looked at Andy and Tan Xiu incredulously. Huang Su secretly rolled his eyes inwardly. Recalling what happened between Andy and Tan Xiu before, there was a bit of worship in his eyes as he said, "Brother Tang, you're simply the reincarnation of the Casanova saint. If such a top-grade Lolita is willing to throw herself into my arms, I'd be willing to shorten my lifespan by 3 years. "Andy's just joking, don't take it seriously," said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. "Brother Tang, you don't know how blessed you are," Huang Su said with a depressed expression. "I think you should take her to have sex with you. Don't provoke me here." Tan Xiu didn't utter a word and looked elsewhere. Fei Shan looked at Tan Xiu and Andy with a puzzled expression. His eyes then shifted to Huang Su and said with a confused expression, "I'm confused by you. What the hell is going on? What else can it be?" Huang Su forced a wry smile. "That beautiful Andy is crying and shouting to be Brother Tang's lover, but Brother Tang refuses to accept it. I'm afraid Brother Tang is the only one in the whole world who would refuse such a good thing." Fei Shan looked at Tan Xiu with an inconceivable expression. Admiration and respect were revealed in his eyes as he praised, "Brother Tang, you're able to keep your composure even when you're in love. You're truly a gentleman. Although I can't reach your level, but I admire you very much. Idol, let me kneel to you first." Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing. He suddenly found that being together with Huang Su and Fei Shan was actually quite interesting. After getting familiar with them, he could enjoy the relaxed and happy feeling they brought him. "Can you give me face and have a drink, miss?" An abrupt voice rang out beside them. A young man in white clothes with a cool hairstyle stood beside Andy with a confident smile. Andy just glanced at him and lightly said, "I don't drink, thank you." Tan Xiu looked at the crystal glass in Andy's hand with a strange expression. Looking at the red wine inside, the corner of his mouth fiercely twitched twice. "What do you mean by lying through your teeth? This is it." The way she refused people was really special. The young man didn't expect that Andy would use such an excuse to refuse him. An angry and ashamed expression immediately appeared on his face as he said, "If I'm not mistaken, you're Kang Xia's follower, right? If it were Kang Xia, I would feel that you're climbing up the social ladder. But you're just a follower, yet you're so arrogant. Who gave you such confidence? Do you believe that I can make Chief Kang fire you from the magnificent Tang Corporation with just a word?" Andy looked at the young man as though she was looking at an idiot. She deliberately moved closer to Tan Xiu and hummed, "I don't believe it. Why don't you give it a try?" The young man was furious. He quickly beckoned a waiter and whispered a few words to him. The waiter nodded and then walked toward Kang Xia. It didn't take long for Kang Xia to come in front of everyone with a surprised expression. What's going on? The young man quickly said, Chief Kang, do you still remember me? I'm the vice president of Messiah Cosmetics Company. You once came to our company for the sales of your upcoming cosmetics products. We also had a meal together. I remember. You're Chief Wu. Kang Xia nodded. Wu Changqing's eyes were filled with a pleasant surprise. It was as though being remembered by Kang Xia brought him a great honor. He glanced at Andy and said, Chief Kang, I've already agreed to your previous request. But can you do me a favor? What favor? Kang Xia raised her brows and asked. Wu Changqing pointed at Andy and proudly said, Can you fire her? I feel that keeping this kind of employee who doesn't know the big picture is a disaster. In case your company's product sales are affected because of her, the gains will outweigh the losses. Kang Xia's expression turned cold and lightly said, Are you threatening me? Chief Kang misunderstood me. I'm just asking for your help, said Wu Changqing quickly. Your favor is too big, I can't help you. Kang Xia said. As a matter of fact, it's useless even if I fire her. She also has shares in our magnificent Tang Corporation. Also, I want to tell you that our company has just made a decision. Our company's upcoming cosmetics products will no longer be sold through your sister's Messiah Cosmetics Company's channel. Please convey this to your general manager when you go back. There are only 4 chapters today. The first one is here. Seeking monthly votes. Chapter 167. Wu Changqing stared blankly for a moment before his complexion immediately changed. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect that such a situation would occur. It must be noted that their Messiah company had almost finished negotiating with the magnificent Tang Corporation. Although the magnificent Tang Corporation took the initiative to look for them, their profits were still huge. If this business was ruined because of him, perhaps he would not be able to keep his position as the vice president. Thinking up to this point, thick cold sweat appeared on his forehead. He quickly said with an obsequious smile, It's a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. Actually, I'm just joking with this beautiful and lovely lady. Chief Kang, you're a magnanimous person, so please don't stoop to my level. I guarantee that our business will be very smooth. Also, I'll report to the general manager after I go back and fight for some preferential treatment for you. Tan Xiu looked up at Kang Xia and slowly asked, How big will the investment be if we set up our own exclusive stores in major cities in the country? Kang Xia stared blankly for a moment before she forced a smile and said, Very big. Furthermore, it's very difficult to set up exclusive stores all over the country in a short time. Tan Xiu said, Our cosmetics business must go to the high-end route. First, we'll open exclusive stores in the first-tier and second-tier cities in the country. After we recover the funds, we'll go to the next level. Remember, we must have the absolute say in our cosmetics sales. Kang Xia's complexion changed. She heavily nodded and said, Yes. I'll immediately revise the plan after I go back. We'll do it according to your request. However, regarding the initial funds, give me some time. I'll give you the funds needed for the initial investment in a month at most, said Tan Xiu. Kang Xia was pleasantly surprised and said, If we have enough funds, I can greatly shorten the time for our products to hit the market. Tan Xiu said, Remember, we're not going to do luxury jewelry, but we must go to the high-end route. As long as our cosmetics are good enough, we don't need to worry about not being able to sell them. Understood. Kang Xia nodded with a smile. Wu Changqing was at a loss due to the relationship between Tan Xiu and Kang Xia. His mind was in a mess. He found that the famous general manager of the magnificent Tang Corporation, Kang Xia, was actually taking orders from someone else. Even more so, Kang Xia was like an employee who was listening to the instructions of the boss. Who was he? How could he order Kang Xia? Could it be a shocking guess appeared in Wu Changqing's mind, but he instantly expelled it. He didn't believe that Kang Xia would work for a young man in his 20s. He couldn't accept that the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss, who had recently invested a lot in this company, was a young man. You are, in the end, Wu Changqing still asked the question in his heart. Andy looked like an angel, but her mouth was extremely sharp. She rolled her eyes at Wu Changqing and said angrily, I say, you are so stupid. Fortunately, our magnificent Tang Corp didn't do business with your company, else we would have been implicated by a group of brainless people like you. President Kang has already made it so obvious, but you still foolishly asked. If I were you, I'd just find a piece of tofu and kill myself, so that I don't live in this world and embarrass myself. Powerful. Huang Su secretly gave a thumbs up, his face full of schadenfreude. When he was humiliated by Andy, his heart could be described as broken, and he was so angry that he almost went crazy. But when he heard Andy humiliate others, he felt especially comfortable in his heart. The matter of him being humiliated before was also thrown out of his mind. Speaking of which, although Huang Su was lecherous, his character was also somewhat heartless. Wu Changqing's face was as pale as paper. He looked incredulously at Tan Xiu and then at Kang Xia, trying to salvage the situation. He squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying and said, Chief Kang, this. Brother, I was wrong just now. Please don't lower yourself to my level. I promise there won't be a next time. Our company needs this business, so we can discuss everything. Get lost. Tan Xiu hated Wu Changqing's arrogant and domineering attitude, and he was too lazy to listen to his explanation. Kang Xia said, Vice President Wu, I've made it clear. No matter how hard you try to redeem it, it won't work. Just leave. Don't make your company lose face here. Wu Changqing's lips squirmed a few times. Seeing that the matter couldn't be salvaged, he immediately turned hostile and glared at Kang Xia and Tan Xiu, saying, You're good. You have guts. Just wait for me. I hope you won't regret it when the time comes. Huang Su crossed his legs, raised his palm and shouted, Do you believe that this father won't slap you if you keep talking? Brother Tang already told you to get lost, so don't make any more noise here. Wu Changqing shrunk his neck and left with a crestfallen expression. Tan Xiu slowly got up and said, Kang Xia, I'll leave this to you. I'm not used to this atmosphere, so I'll go back first. Andy drank some wine tonight, so you can send her back. Kang Xia, who had just received Tan Xiu's financial guarantee, said with a smile, Do you want me to send you back, boss? In any case, I've already done my business and the auction is just a formal donation. We're too poor now, so I won't pretend to be generous. It doesn't matter if I stay or not. Tan Xiu hesitated and said, Is it okay for you to go now? It's okay. Kang Xia nodded heavily. Tan Xiu said, Since it's okay, then send me back. In this case, you can go back earlier and rest earlier. After a short while, Tan Xiu greeted Long Zhengyu, Huang Su, and Fei Shan, and then left with Kang Xia and Andy. At the entrance of the party hall, Huang Su looked at their backs as they left. With a sour tone, he said, Tan Xiu is really lucky with women. Kang Xia is a stunning beauty. Even the first beauty in the imperial capital can only be compared to her. Andy is an angelic Lolita with a child's face, a rare and exquisite woman. On the surface, it looks like Kang Xia wants to send Tan Xiu back, but I think they must be rolling in the sheets. Long Zhengyu was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he said, Young Master Huang, how come the words coming out of your mouth have a different taste? Tan Xiu is not the kind of person who falls in love with every woman he sees. He's not like what you said, playing some dirty tricks. Fei Shan shook his head and said, Young Master Long, I don't like what you said. Haven't you heard that even heroes have a weakness for the charms of beauties? Kang Xia and Andy are the best among women. Only one of them can be picked out from thousands of women. Even if Tan Xiu has a good willpower, can he resist their temptation? You two are really dirty. Long Zhengyu scolded with a smile. However, he admired Tan Xiao in his heart. He was a smart man, and his observation skill was even more formidable. He could see that Kang Xia and Andy had a deep impression of Tan Xiao. Once this good impression fermented to a certain extent, it would probably change qualitatively and turn into an undying love. The next afternoon, Kang Xia sent the company's business car to pick up the 4 housekeeper trainers from the UK from the airport. They were also sent to the villa in Southgate Town. These 4 housekeeper trainers had their own unique skills and were very famous in the British aristocratic circle. Tan Xiao had spent a lot of money this time, so after seeing the 4 people, he handed Mu Qingping over to them. As for how much Mu Qingping could learn, that was her business. In the evening, Tan Xiao took the high-speed rail and rushed to Dongyuan province. There was no direct flight from Star City to Cangbei City in Dongyuan province. But the railway line was very developed, so it only took 3 hours for Tan Xiao to arrive at Cangbei City at 10 o'clock in the evening. After leaving the train station, Tan Xiao intended to stop a taxi outside the station. But to his helplessness, he found that there were indeed a lot of taxis here. But when he reported the name of Qingshan town, all the taxi drivers refused to pick him up without exception. Why not? Tan Xiao couldn't help but ask the female driver. The female driver forced a smile and said, "Little brother, it's not that we don't want to go. After all, the distance from the train station to Qingshan town is very far. But it's already late at night, and the road is very remote and dangerous. Even if the guest is a good person, in case they meet a road bully, that would be miserable." Road bully? Tan Xiao couldn't understand and curiously asked, "From here to Qingshan town, will we meet a road bully? Isn't this a society ruled by law? Is there no police to manage it?" The female driver sighed. "Manage? How come there's no police? But those road bullies are like rats. They are very familiar with the geographical environment along the road. Plus, it's a remote area along the road, so it's very difficult to meet people within dozens of miles. Even if the police want to arrest those road bullies and robbers, it's very difficult to catch them. Every time those guys see that the situation is not right, they will drill into the mountain forest on the roadside. It's very difficult to catch them even if a lot of police forces are deployed." Suddenly, the female driver lowered her voice and looked around. After finding that no one was paying attention to her and Tan Xiao, she then whispered, "Little brother, I advise you to stay in Cangbei City tonight and rush to Qingshan town tomorrow. Those road bullies and robbers are very rampant. I heard that they have some dirty relations with some police in the city. So, it's better to be safe than sorry. You'll be out of luck if you run into those scourges." Tan Xiao hesitated for a moment before he forced a smile and said, "If that's the case, then send me to a hotel in Cangbei City. I want a good hotel." Seeing that Tan Xiao listened to her advice, the female driver immediately smiled and said, "All right, little brother, get in the car. I'll send you to the most high-end 5-star hotel in Cangbei City." "Ah, right. If you go to Qingshan town tomorrow morning, do you need me to pick you up? I'll directly send you there." "There's such a service?" Tan Xiao was surprised. "Isn't it like booking a big job in advance?" The female driver said with a smile. "We taxi drivers in Cangbei City can't be compared with those unlicensed taxi drivers in terms of income. If you want to keep your job, then you must know some strategy." "All right, then. Pick me up tomorrow morning," Tan Xiao said with a smile. Chapter 168. Cangbei City's economic development was average. Although it should be on the same level as Star City, but the development and construction of the entire urban area was far behind Star City. Even though the female driver threatened to send Tan Xiao to a 5-star hotel, after entering the hotel, Tan Xiao felt that this hotel might not even reach the standard of a 4-star hotel. Of course, the price was also much cheaper. Sangbei City was surrounded by mountains on two sides and water on the other side. Geographically, it was slightly remote in the country. The next morning, Tan Xiu washed up and ate breakfast in the hotel restaurant. Then, he got into the taxi of the driver who came to pick him up. "How long will it take us to get from here to Qingshan town?" Tan Xiu asked. The female driver said with a smile, "It's nearly 2.5 hours. Although the journey isn't too far, the road isn't very good. The government has been clamoring for roads to be built all day long, but there has been no movement for several years. If it's a good road, it'll only take about an hour to cover a distance of 100 or 200 kilometers." Tan Xiu nodded slightly. He pondered for a moment and suddenly asked, "I heard that there is a sinkhole here. Is it true?" The female driver was stunned for a moment. Then, she seemed to come to a realization. She looked at Tan Xiu from the side and smilingly said, "Little brother, you're going to Qingshan town to go to the giant sinkhole, right? Listen to big sister's advice, don't put yourself in danger." The sky cavern was located in the deep mountains and forests. The mountain path was steep, and there were poisonous snakes and ferocious beasts, miasma, and swamps. Many people who stepped into the mountains never came out again. Every year, many white bones are discovered by later generations. Tan Xiu asked curiously, "The Pulin mountain range is considered a large mountain range in the country. Could it be that the government here has not thought of developing it into a tourist attraction?" Now, everywhere in the country, places with a little bit of scenery were wantonly building tourist attractions, hoping to attract a large number of domestic and foreign tourists and improve the economic development of the city. Sangbei City has this foundation, why not make use of it? The female driver bitterly smiled. Sangbei City's government can only be described with 3 words. Tan Xiu asked, "Which 3 words?" "Inaction," the female driver said bluntly. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing. Although the female driver said it simply, she expressed the meaning vividly. He had once heard Yuan Chuling lamenting about this. To this day, those words were still fresh in his memory. "As an official, I'm not afraid of him being greedy. All the crows in the world were black. If one was promoted within the system, it would be difficult for them to succeed if they were not greedy." However, some officials were greedy, but they did things for their bosses. Some officials were greedy, but they didn't do things for their bosses. Of the 2 types of officials, the latter are the most hateful. Tan Xiu didn't want to talk about the government, so he smiled and shook his head, looking out the window. The taxi drove very fast. In just over half an hour, it left Sangbei City and entered the rural road. It didn't take long before they reached the end of the relatively spacious road. In front of them was a bumpy gravel road. "Sigh, every time I walk this path, I get a headache." Apparently, the female driver didn't like being lonely. She spoke again not long after the conversation ended. Tan Xiu didn't want to talk anymore. He looked at the female driver in the back seat and said, "I want to sleep for a while. Wake me up when we arrive at Qingshan town." "Sleep? You didn't rest well last night?" The female driver was surprised. "Yes." Tan Xiu admitted it perfunctorily. The female driver smiled and said, "That's right. It was already past 10 o'clock when you arrived at Sangbei City last night. Then you went to the hotel, washed up, and went to bed at least at 12 o'clock. You got up so early in the morning. It would be strange if you didn't feel sleepy. Go to sleep, buddy. I'll wake you up when we arrive." "Thank you." Tan Xiu answered and slowly closed his eyes. He did sleep very late last night. It was not 12 o'clock at night, but 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. After all, no matter how busy he was, he had to find time to practice every day. Although the astral power in his body wasn't increasing fast, it was slowly accumulating. When the time came, he would reach the peak of the skin-strengthening state. Time flew by. Just when Tan Xiu was in a deep sleep, he was awakened by the sudden braking of the taxi. "What's going on?" Tan Xiu's body was moving forward due to inertia. If it weren't for his quick reflexes, his head would have hit the back of the seat in front of him. After opening his eyes, he frowned and asked. The female driver's face was pale and her eyes revealed a bit of nervousness. She turned her head and said bitterly, "We're screwed. I didn't expect to be robbed in broad daylight." Tan Xiu looked out of the window and immediately found that the taxi was surrounded by 3 vans after it stopped. 7 or 8 meters in front of the taxi, there were 4 or 5 stones blocking the road. Tan Xiu looked around and realized that this was a 3-way junction. The 3 vans should have been waiting at the crossroads on both sides for a long time, waiting for passing cars. When a car came, they would immediately drive out and outflank the car. And those 4 or 5 stones were probably thrown on the road at the last minute. However, he didn't expect that the people here would be so audacious. They dared to block the road and rob people in broad daylight. It could be imagined how arrogant these people were. The local government is really incompetent. Tan Xiu sighed inwardly, but he didn't feel nervous. Looking at the dozen strong men armed with knives and weapons rushing out of the 3 vans, he calmly said, "You wait in the car. I'll go down and have a look." The female driver quickly said, "Little brother, you must not bump into them. These people are generally after money. As long as we give them all the money, our personal safety can be guaranteed. But if you offend them, they will be ruthless." Tan Xiu didn't speak. He opened the door and got off the car. He looked at the fierce faces of the dozen strong men and lightly said, "Are you the ones who block the road and rob people?" The leader of the dozen strong men was a man with a shaved head and a thick gold chain around his neck. There was a hideous scar on his left cheek that looked like a centipede. Holding a machete, he grinned and said, "You're quite knowledgeable, huh, brat? You know that we're blocking the road and robbing you, so you obediently take out all your belongings. Maybe we brothers will be happy and won't break your hands and feet." Tan Xiu was silent for a moment and slowly said, "Have you ever heard of the saying that a wicked man will be tormented by another wicked man?" The bald man stared blankly for a moment and then burst into laughter. "You mean, you're also a wicked man? Do you want to teach us a lesson?" Tan Xiu gave him a thumbs up and praised, "You have a good comprehension ability. You must be a smart man. It's a pity that you don't walk the right path and your mind is full of crooked ideas. Today, I'll help your parents teach you a lesson so that you can repent and turn over a new leaf in the future." Ha ha ha, the bald man laughed crazily, and the dozen strong men around him also convulsed with laughter. They looked at Tan Xiu as though they were looking at an idiot. After a while, the bald man stopped laughing and looked at Tan Xiu. He crooked his finger and smilingly said, "Brat, do you know my name?" "Scarblade Chong. My brothers call me Big Brother Chong." "How about it? Have you heard the name of your big brother?" Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "You're just a country bumpkin. I've never heard of you. Are you very famous?" A big man grinned and said, "Famous? More than famous. Big Brother Chong is definitely famous. You're quite tactful, brat. You know that you're a country bumpkin with no experience." Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "I want to refute you. Besides, I think he's really not famous." "Do you know why?" "Why?" asked the big man with a puzzled expression. "It's said that the bird that pokes its head out will be shot." Tan Xiu lightly said, "If he's really famous, I'm afraid he would have been arrested by the police. Although the law and order here is not good, it's hard for the police to tolerate people who are too rampant. You're courting death." The big man flew into a rage and pointed the tip of the knife in his hand at Tan Xiu. Scarblade Chong waved his hand to stop the big man beside him. He squinted his eyes and sized up Tan Xiu as he lightly said, "Kid, I admire your courage. You can speak so confidently and with assurance in front of us. Presumably, you're not an ordinary person. Which gang are you from? Give us brothers your name." "I told you, I'm from the countryside," said Tan Xiu. Scarblade Chung shot a deep look at Tan Xiu. A bit of a grin was revealed on his face as he said, I gave you the opportunity, but you didn't grasp it. Since that's the case, us brothers won't be polite. Take out all your belongings and the driver in the taxi. Get the fuck out here and hand over all your money. Else, you'll have a bloody disaster today. Tan Xiu indifferently said, I'll return those words to you. Take out all your money, else don't blame me for being impolite. Also, take out the dog chain on your neck and the watch on your wrist. Hand over all your valuables and valuables. Scarblade Chung stared blankly, and the dozen big men around him were also dumbfounded. However, in just a few seconds, they reacted. Each and every one of them looked angry as they aggressively pounced toward Tan Xiu. A cold and callous expression appeared on Tan Xiu's face as he looked at the incoming knife. His footsteps flashed as he dodged it, and his fist heavily hit the bridge of the nose. He didn't use much strength, but this punch was enough to break the other's nose. Bam, bam, Tan Xiu was like a fierce tiger, while the dozen big men were like soft lambs. The result of a tiger entering a flock of sheep was naturally obvious. In just 7 or 8 breaths, more than 10 big men were knocked down by Tan Xiu. Each and every one of them curled up on the ground like shrimps, howling in pain. Scarblade Chung didn't move, and he was the only one standing intact. His pupils shrunk as disbelief flashed in his eyes. He stared fixedly at Tan Xiu as if he was looking at a terrifying monster. He had seen martial arts experts before. But he had never seen anyone with such terrifying skills. At this moment, he suspected that if he wasn't dreaming, then was this Tan Xiu in front of him a retired Special Forces soldier? Chapter 169. Scarblade Chung subconsciously took 2 steps back as he looked at Tan Xiu with vigilance. His hand gripping the hilt of his knife increased a lot. He knew the fighting level of his brothers. They were not easy to deal with. They often fought and had rich combat experience. However, they were all knocked down by the young man in front of him in just 7 or 8 breaths. He knew that he had kicked a hard stubble this time. If his trump card worked, then he could still clean up this young man. But if it didn't work, then he was afraid that he would really be out of luck this time. After a moment of silence, Scarblade Chung took out a pistol from his waist. After opening the safety, he pointed the black muzzle at Tan Xiu and shouted in a stern voice, Brat, do you really think that you can clean up all of us with your martial arts? Even if you can fight, can you be faster than my bullets? Tan Xiu's expression was still calm as he lightly said, I'll give you 3 seconds to put down the muzzle. I hate it the most when people threaten me, and I also hate it when people point their guns at me. Those who have pointed their guns at me are either dead or seriously injured. What? Scarblade Chung's heart trembled as he subconsciously lowered the muzzle. It was not a day or 2 since he had been mingling in this underworld, and he had encountered a lot of ruthless people. But when facing Tan Xiu, he felt a kind of creepy feeling in his heart. Even if he had a gun in his hand, he still believed Tan Xiu's words in an instant. He felt that a person with such a terrifying force would never exaggerate. You, who the hell are you? Tan Xiu lightly said, you don't need to know who I am. You only need to know that today, I'm going to teach you a lesson on behalf of your parents, so that you can walk on the right path of turning over a new leaf. Scarblade Chung was silent for a moment. Then, he lifted the muzzle and pointed it at Tan Xiu again as he said in a deep voice, Brat, I'm not scared. I really don't believe that your speed can be faster than my shooting speed. I don't believe that your body of flesh and blood can dodge my bullets. I'll say it here. If you can beat me, I'll let you teach me whatever you want, and I guarantee that I'll never break the law again. Don't blame me if you lose and end up with more injuries. Tan Xiu crooked his finger at Scarblade Chung and coldly snorted, try shooting. No. The female driver, who had been hiding in the taxi, watched the whole scene of Tan Xiu knocking down more than a dozen big men. Never in her wildest dreams did she expect that Tan Xiu, who had always been amiable and easy to talk to, actually possessed such terrifying skills. She thought that she would be safe this time, but she didn't expect that Scarblade Chang would actually bring a pistol. She clearly heard the conversation between Tan Xiu and Scarblade Chang, and fear rose in her heart. She was also annoyed that Tan Xiu was too arrogant. Even when he was pointed at by a gun, he still didn't know what was good for him. As the saying goes, endure for a moment and calm the waves, take a step back and you'll see the world. At most, he would lose some money today. It was better than losing his life. She opened the door and rushed to Tan Xiu's side. She looked at Scarblade Chang and nervously said, "Big brother, my family's little brother is insensible. Please don't lower yourself to his level. I'll give you the money. I'll give you all the money I have. I hope you won't trouble us again." Scarblade Chang narrowed his eyes and coldly snorted, "Your family's little brother? Aren't you just a taxi driver? Isn't he just a passenger? What? You want to stand up for him?" The female driver forced a smile and said, "I don't want to stand up for him. I just don't want to make this matter bigger. It's not easy for us to make a living. As long as we can get money, it's better to have less trouble. Besides, if you kill him, won't you be burdened with a murder case? It's said that if one often stands by the river, one's shoes won't get wet. If one day this matter is exposed, you'll have to pay with your life." She paused and looked at the indifferent expression on Tan Xiu's face. She forcefully pulled Tan Xiu's sleeve and squeezed out a smiling face as she spoke again, "Big brother, what you just said is correct. He's indeed just my passenger. But I believe you've seen his skill. How can an average person achieve such a terrifying kung fu? You can shoot him now, and you can also kill him. But have you ever thought about it? He's so powerful, but what about his family? What background does he have? What's his purpose in coming here?" Scarblade Chang was stunned. Tan Xiu's terrifying skill had indeed shocked him. But he didn't think too much about it. But now, after the driver's reminder, he suddenly sobered up. That's right. This young man looked to be in his 20s. Such a young man with such a powerful kung fu, there must be someone more powerful behind him. In case he really provoked a big shot that he couldn't afford to offend, he was afraid that he would die without a burial site. Perhaps, he would even implicate his family. Thinking up to this point, Scarblade Chang slowly put down the pistol. He deeply looked at Tan Xiu and said, "All right. I admit that I don't want to cause any trouble. I can also see that little brother is not an ordinary person. Let's settle today's matter like this. Give me a few thousand yuan as the medical expenses for my brothers, and we'll settle this matter. Later on, you go your own way, and I'll go my own way. We'll mind our own business." Tan Xiu coldly shouted, "Raise your gun." Scarblade Chang frowned and instantly aimed the muzzle at Tan Xiu. Whoosh! An afterimage flashed as Scarblade Chang's right wrist was twisted and broken, and the pistol appeared in Tan Xiu's hand. Immediately after, Tan Xiu's foot flew up and fiercely kicked Scarblade Chang's face, directly slapping him to the ground. "You want me to settle this matter? I haven't agreed to it yet. You should be glad that you didn't shoot me. Otherwise, it wouldn't be as simple as having your hand crippled by me now. Maybe a few hours later, you bunch of scums will be fed to the wild beasts in this mountain." The female driver was dumbfounded as she looked at the scene in front of her. The situation had reversed 180 degrees, making her brain unable to process it for a moment. She just foolishly looked at Tan Xiu, looking at Scarblade Chang who was slapped to the ground with blood overflowing from his mouth. At this moment, Scarblade Chang's heart was filled with a chill. His whole body was ice cold, and he even forgot the heart-wrenching and lung-splitting pain in his wrist. He couldn't even feel the burning pain on his face. Fast. It was really too fast. He only felt a blur in front of him. His wrist was twisted, and the pistol was in the other party's hand. He didn't even see how the other party kicked him, and he was directly slapped to the ground. At this moment, he suddenly realized that even if he had held the pistol and pulled the trigger, he wouldn't have been able to bring harm to this young man. On the contrary, his end would have been very miserable. Tan Xiu slowly squatted down. He patted Scarblade Chang's face and said, "Do you still remember what I just said? Unless you turn over a new leaf, I don't mind getting rid of the scourge for the people as soon as possible." Scarblade Chang's lips squirmed a few times. With an ashen face, he said, "We admit defeat. If you always stand by the riverside, how can you not get your shoes wet? This sentence makes sense. We won't rob people on this road anymore." "Pa!" Tan Xiu slapped his face again as he coldly snorted and said, "It's not that we won't rob people on this road, it's just that we can't rob people anywhere. It's the cycle of the heavens, karma and retribution. The sins you committed in this life will be repaid in this life. Perhaps the retribution won't fall on your head, but you must accumulate virtue for your descendants. I promise you." Scarblade Chang's reply was very straightforward this time. Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction. He got up and kicked him, saying, "Tell your brothers who can still crawl up to stop lying on the ground and pretending to be dead. Tell them to stand up and move the stones in front of the van. While you're at it, move the van." "All right." Scarblade Chang struggled to crawl up from the ground. He looked at his brothers who were curled up on the ground, not daring to get up, and shouted, "All of you, get up. Do as this little brother says." Those big men looked at Tan Xiu with fear in their eyes. After they crawled up, they moved the stones and the van. Tan Xiu stretched out his hand towards Scarblade Chang and lightly said, "Hand over all the cash you have. I came here in a hurry this time, so I didn't bring much cash with me. Since you've admitted defeat, consider it as filial piety to me. Take out the money." Scarblade Chang's heart was full of grievance as he shouted in a low voice. Quickly. A thick stack of 100 yuan bills, as well as a stack of change, was taken by Tan Xiu. With a glance, Tan Xiu found that these big men had a lot of cash on them. Altogether, it was more than 10 or 20,000 yuan. "Get lost. Don't let me see you again." Tan Xiu waved his hand and said. Scarblade Chang and his brothers couldn't wait to escape from here as soon as possible. Upon hearing Tan Xiu's words, they cursed inwardly, "Who wants to meet you, this fiend?" They left very fast. They came like the wind and left like the wind. When Tan Xiu looked at the female driver, he lightly said, "Can we go now?" The female driver seemed to wake up from a dream. Her body quivered and she quickly said, "Let's go. We'll leave immediately." Tan Xiu faintly smiled. After sitting in the car, he handed the 2 stacks of change to her and lightly said, "This money is my fare." The female driver quickly said, "No, no, no. This is too much. It's more than 1 or 2,000 yuan. If it weren't for you today, I would have been robbed by them. How can I take your money?" "Just take it," Tan Xiu said. "I didn't expect you to be so loyal. The other party had a gun, yet you dared to stand up for me. It can be said that a friend in need is a friend indeed." The female driver was also a straightforward person. Upon hearing Tan Xiu's words, she hesitated for a moment before she took the 2,000 yuan and gratefully said, "It's really rare to meet such a powerful and kind-hearted little brother like you these days. If you ever come to Cangbei City again and need a taxi, just call this big sis. This big sis won't charge you." "All right." Tan Xiu didn't act pretentiously and nodded with a smile. "Today, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I'm so tired that my back hurts. I'm so sleepy that my eyelids are fighting with my lower eyelids. I'm begging for the monthly vote support." Chapter 170. Qingshan town was surrounded by mountains and rivers. The scenery was beautiful and the air was fresh. There weren't many residents here. The entire town was home to thousands of families. There weren't many shops in the town. But even though it was small, it had all the essentials. There were also shops selling oil, salt, soy sauce, vinegar, and tea. Furthermore, there was also a hotel in the busiest part of the block. After Tan Xiu got off the car at the entrance of the hotel, he saw a middle-aged man in a black training suit greeting him. "Are you Mr. Tang?" "I am," said Tan Xiu. The middle-aged man respectfully said, "Mr. Tang, our boss and Mr. Xiao have been waiting for you for a long time. Please come with me." Tan Xiu nodded and followed the middle-aged man into the hotel. In a spacious and bright room on the second floor, he saw Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingzhen. His eyes were sharp. The moment he saw them, he could see that they were injured. Although their injuries weren't very serious, they still looked a bit miserable. "Brother Tang, you've finally arrived. It can be said that we've suffered a heavy loss this time. If you didn't want to come, we were ready to go home." Miao Wentong strode to greet him and spoke with a forced smile. Tan Xiu faintly smiled and said, "It's nothing. We're all cultivators. It just so happens that I also need a batch of precious ores recently. I'm very happy that you can think of me when you have a good thing." Xiao Mingzhen helplessly said, "Brother Tang, we still don't know whether it's a good thing or not. Although we got the news that there are precious ores in that sky cavern, no one can say for sure whether it's true or not. We've gone there several times, but we haven't been able to go deep into the sky cavern." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "I'm well aware of this. However, both of you are cultivators with valiant strength. Even I'm not your match in a one-on-one fight. You should have held back on the phone, right?" "Indeed, we did hold back. I hope Brother Tang won't take it to heart." In the forest near the prime forest mountain range sky pit, we encountered a very powerful vicious creature. That thing looked like a tiger, but not a tiger, like a leopard, but not a leopard. Its body size was even smaller than a normal cheetah, but its speed was really too fast, and its intelligence was extremely high. We exhausted all of our efforts, and even at the cost of our own injuries, we only lightly injured it. In addition, there seems to be a natural maze formation at the place where we have to go to the giant sinkhole. We don't understand the maze formation, so we suffered a great loss from that ferocious creature. Of the dozen or so trusted subordinates I brought with me, no less than 5 of them died inside. Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and slowly said, "You've never seen that monster?" "Why haven't I seen any records of it in the records?" "No." Both of them shook their heads. Tan Xiu said, "How about this? You are injured, I will give you a day to rest. Tomorrow morning, we'll set off for the prime forest mountain range." Miao Wentong rubbed his hands and grinned, "Our injuries are fine, Brother Tang. The last time we came back from the Evil Dragon Sea area, we bought a precious prescription from you. It only took us 2 days, and our injuries were completely healed. We came back the day before yesterday and picked up a lot of Chinese herbs according to your prescription. After we took it, our internal injuries are almost healed, and our external injuries will also be healed in 2 days." "Picking herbs?" Tan Xiu was surprised. Miao Wentong said, "Yes. It's picking herbs. This prime forest mountain range is almost undeveloped and still maintains its original appearance. There are a lot of precious medicinal herbs growing here. Many of our domestic medicinal herb merchants come here once in a while to buy some medicinal herbs from the local residents." Tan Xiu said with a smile, "It seems like this place is really a treasure mountain. Let's find an opportunity to pick some precious medicinal herbs. I've already sent someone to prepare a suitcase. We'll take it when we enter the mountain," said Miao Wentong. The next day, the wounds on Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingzhen's bodies had already scabbed and no longer affected their strength. The sky had just turned bright as the group of people left the small town on foot and entered the mountain forest. The lush foliage of the mountain forest was filled with hundreds of blooming flowers that were too beautiful to behold. The rugged mountain road was like a flat ground for everyone. This time, Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingzhen didn't bring many people. Altogether, there were only 6 middle-aged men. Although they were not cultivators, their martial arts foundation was very profound. On the second evening after entering the mountain, everyone crossed over the mountains and finally arrived near the sky cavern. Along the way, they didn't encounter many crises. There were only a few sneak attacks from wild beasts, which were all killed by them. After all, Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjin had walked this road several times and were quite familiar with it. Halfway up the mountain, Miao Wentong called his men to set up camp and prepared to spend the night here. Xiao Mingjin came to Tan Xiu's side. He looked at the undulating mountain range and sighed. This prime forest mountain range looks picturesque, but it's actually full of hidden dangers. If it were an ordinary person, I'm afraid it would be very difficult to come here. Tan Xiu nodded and said, this place is indeed full of dangers. According to what you said, we're already very close to the destination. Let you and Miao Wentong's men stay here. They are not cultivators. If they follow us, not only will they not be able to help us, they will also become a burden. Xiao Mingjin said, I also have the same idea. This time, we've lost too many men. We can't afford to continue losing them. Tan Xiu said, after dinner, all of you go rest. I'll keep watch. Xiao Mingjin quickly said, Brother Tang, I think it's better to let the others keep watch. The three of us have a good rest and restore our spirit. When we enter the maze array and the sky cavern tomorrow, we'll be able to perform better. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, I have a hunch that the baneful creature you mentioned will appear again tonight. If we don't deal with it, the days ahead will be very difficult. Xiao Mingjin said helplessly, that baneful creature's speed is too fast. We simply have no way to surround and kill it. Tan Xiu confidently said with a smile, leave it to me. As long as it dares to come again, I'll make it unable to leave. Xiao Mingjin was surprised and said, Brother Tang, do you have a way? Tan Xiu said, a ray. Xiao Mingjin's eyes lit up as he immediately clapped and applauded, that's right. If you can arrange an entrapment array and trap that baneful creature inside, it'll be much easier for us to kill it. So be it, Brother Tang. You take a rest and then start arranging the array. I'll inform Miao Wentong and the others to prepare to kill that baneful creature. Tan Xiu stopped him as he shook his head and said, no need. I alone am enough to deal with that baneful creature. You guys rest well tonight. If everyone helps, I'm afraid that the more we help, the more troublesome it will be. He stayed in Qingshan town for a day, but he didn't stay idle. Instead, he bought a lot of things. Not only did he buy good quality jades, but he also bought a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone to draw dozens of lightning talismans. He was worried that Xiao Mingjin and Miao Wentong's men would see him when he used the lightning talismans. Low-key. Only then would he be able to avoid trouble. Apart from Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjin, perhaps only Dao Master Zi knew that he could refine lightning talismans. Therefore, he didn't want this matter to be known by others as little as possible. Xiao Mingjin hesitated and said, can you do it yourself? Do you want me to accompany you? For a moment, Tan Xiu was silent. Then, he said, you stay here. I'll arrange the array in another place. Moreover, I'll think of a way to lead that baneful creature there. I'll tell Miao Wentong to go with me. You stay here to protect the others. Xiao Mingjin said, all right. If you need my help, just think of a way to inform me. I'll immediately rush over there. Late at night, Tan Xiu and Miao Wentong were hiding in the dense thicket. In the middle of several trees, Tan Xiu ignited a raging fire and sprinkled a handful of snake aroma grass that he had picked on the way to the fire. This herb had a very good blood tonic effect, but its biggest function was to attract a lot of wild beasts. After Tan Xiu returned to Earth, he deliberately read the Herbal Compendium, Encyclopedia of Chinese Medicine, Yellow Emperor's Canon of Internal Medicine, Bian Kei's Pharmacology Compilation, and other books about Chinese medicine. Therefore, he had a deep understanding of the medicinal herbs on Earth. Early in the morning, Miao Wentong, who was hiding in the thicket, asked in a low voice, Brother Tang, do you think that baneful creature will be attracted here? Tan Xiu lowered his voice and said, since it took the initiative to sneak attack you several times, it proves that it's very aggressive. There's a fire here. If it's active in the nearby area, it should be able to attract its attention. In addition, within the radius of a kilometer, the snake aroma grass's fragrance is drifting. If it's a carnivore, it won't be able to help but come here. Don't be impatient. We'll know soon enough. Miao Wentong nodded silently. As a cultivator, he didn't lack patience. Since Tan Xiu was so confident, his confidence also increased a lot. Soon, 2 wild wolves appeared in the surroundings. These 2 wild wolves faced upwards and howled a few times. Half a minute later, pairs of green eyes appeared in the surrounding thicket. Dozens of wild wolves came over in fear. They seemed to be afraid of fire as they circled around the bonfire. Oh, suddenly, a wild wolf raised its head and howled. The other wild wolves also followed suit and howled towards the sky as they quickly rushed in the same direction. What's going on? Asked Miao Wentong in a low voice. Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and quickly released his spiritual sense in all directions. When the range within 200 meters was completely covered, his expression slightly moved and he said in a low voice, "It's coming." Under the observation of his spiritual sense, he could see the baneful creature's appearance. It was indeed like what Miao Wentong and Tang Xiu had said. It looked like a tiger, but not a tiger, like a leopard, but not a leopard. The most important thing was that there were actually 1-inch long protruding thorns on its back. It's bigger than a cat, but smaller than a leopard. It's agile and has a very high vigilance. Tan Xiu evaluated it inwardly through his observation. He was like an experienced hunter. With enough patience, he observed the baneful beast slowly approaching and quickly arrived at the edge of the array he had arranged. If it were to approach 10 meters closer, it would enter the array. At that time, it would be very difficult for it to escape. However, just when Tan Xiu thought that the baneful beast would enter the array, a sudden change occurred. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.